On the line of flu shots, I'll remind everyone that there is a flu clinic at the community center next week, run by DHMC. Used it a couple of years now. It's great. These are med students and it's good practice for them. It's easy for us. But I think it's Tuesday, do I have that right?
Second.
It's October 2nd. Thank you.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
Do they do children?
Yes,
Yes,
They do.
And they have the flu shot for older people,
yes.
yes, they do.
because Walgreens did not, that's why.
No, they'll have the senior flu shot. They always have.
Back at 6:30, calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the Budget Committee. First topic, approval of minutes.
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
I had one change for consideration. On line 46, we talking about the investment strategy. It was Dan, Dimitri, and Eric. Jane also said that she wanted to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Any other edits? Do we have to re-motion to accept as amended?
I make a motion to accept as amended.
Second.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Anybody against? Same. Alright. Next up. Default budget.
I don't have a lot on that, but in your packet, you have the 2026 default budget. We can't put this into our finance system and print it out. So this is the default budget you're gonna get. We will be giving you, and we may have one, I have one to give you later today to see that. What we're gonna kind of do this year is any adjustments we make to the budget or default budget as we move through, there shouldn't be a lot to default, but we found a few things today that was like, oh, that's off a little. Most of them actually reduced the default budget. But, we're putting those on a spreadsheet and tracking them, and we'll get those guys to you so you can see them.
So those are just corrections for the default.
Yeah, they'll just be minor. The ones we did today, most of them were, we had loan payments in there that we moved over from last year. And when we looked, the actual loan payment's a little bit lower than what it was because we're paying it down. So we moved those down. So you'll see that it has the 2025 budget there for you guys to look at, but then we also put the 2026 current requested in there. So you'll see that. And then the default budget, like I said, I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, the default budget is really scripted by law, how it needs to be written. So there's not a lot of, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And it's also by law, because it hasn't been voted for the budget committee to do it, that it's the select board that sets the default budget. Which I also think is a good check and balance with the budget committee. So, with that, we'll move through. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward that you pull out all the one-time expenses that we have. You keep contracted expenses, whether they're loans or escalating, like Norm's one of them, our contract assessor. His contract goes up a little bit every year. You keep those contracts in there as prescribed. But other than that, you just move the number over from 2025 to 2026. Whatever it is. I mean, it may be higher than what we're budgeting this year, it may be lower than what we're budgeting, but by law, you just move that into the default budget. So that's what we did. This is what you see. We'll continue to look at it as we go through, not really making changes, but we'll be looking for things like that, the loan payments and things that might just not be 100% right. If we find those, we'll let you guys know what those are.
What about things like election expenses? There are multiple elections.
We can't.
It doesn't change.
No, it doesn't change. You have to. Pretty much what'll happen is if the default happens and we don't have enough money, we'll have to cut services in certain places and move around to do that. They will not live in these line items when you get to the default budget. The default budget is really the last number on the page.
It's a bottom.
And then we'll just have to work with the select board and myself to manipulate that to do what we can do through the year.
So if you pull out the one-time expenses out of 25, any one-time expenses? you're not allowed to put any one-time expenses into 26 and
Not in the default budget. No, that goes in your normal budget and then the voters decide which one they want.
Yeah,
They talked at the meeting today, New Hampshire Municipal Association, about when, even with the, since it's not coming from the budget, or approved by the budget committee, that it still was good to have recommended by the budget committee. So it's part of the joint.
Yeah, probably at the end you would vote.
Yeah.
That it is or not, but, so, yeah, you guys definitely want to see it, but it's technically the select board's default.
Do you by any chance have the break, like, do you know what it is for the general fund? Because I noticed that the full budget at the back includes all the funds, and so it may look like, we're bringing down the budget by $3 million.
We can pull that out.
Okay.
We've done that on a couple other things, so it would be pretty easy to just take this spreadsheet and pull down to that area and get the
Right.
sum of what it is.
And there's 2.7 million that is the water improvement
Right.
project.
Right, and so I figured that was the big one that was hiding.
The other thing from the default, that's lower is it does not include the CIP appropriation because that's a separate article. It's just a.
Okay, yeah. So essentially, it reflects the numbers that are in the top box of the summary sheets that you do at the end of the season.
And we can pull those down and we'll
Yep.
need to do that when we get to town meeting or town report time and the deliberative session, so people understand all those numbers and warrant articles won't be able to be written that way, but the narratives will. And
But can I just, a question about something that sort of like jumps out at me as I'm scanning down through here. Under repairs and service contracts, the budget was 1525 and you're requesting 74,443. And then the default is 2,040. I'm just wondering,
we'll get to that. The 74,443, and you're gonna see that a lot through this budget is what we talked last time, where we took a lot of shared expenses and
Okay.
grouped them into one.
yep.
And then it's actual contracted price, and then the 2040 is exactly what I was talking about, that we did some things and the cost of those contracts came down a little bit, but you're supposed to move that number straight over in the default. So there are places we pulled it down, but there are places by law that it's just supposed to be that number that pulls over. So we'll talk about that. There's a lot of places in this budget, and I plan on kind of highlighting those as we go through, where we budgeted 1,000 or 2,000 last year and it's budgeted for 0 this year. And then we'll have a few of those numbers that are a lot bigger than they were before. And if you add it up, it calculates really close to what it was.
So talk
Telephone?
about CIP. Like, we're still gonna have CIP, right?
But it doesn't go in
The default budget.
budget. We don't budget CIP in this meeting. We don't put CIP in our budget. It's voted as a separate article, then
Right.
it slides into the budget to be signed. So it's a separate warrant article paid for by CIP.
Right, but line, page 14 at the bottom, line 01-495,
It's in there right now.
right,
My little sheet, and I can pass that out right now, I guess, is the changes that we've made since this was printed and since this was printed.
got it,
And we pulled some of that back out. We caught some of those things today.
right, because it's becomes apples to oranges, right? It's
And
not
then as
like,
we go through budget, as you remember, it's like every meeting, it's, oh, we found this.
Yeah.
We had to change this. So we figured we'd just keep a spreadsheet running total that we can give you guys at any time of all the changes from this main one that we gave you.
right, so, but it's not like the default budget is gonna be $1 million lower than the requested.
Not total, and like you said, with your general fund, it's
General
not gonna
fund.
be, but
Yeah,
it is
general fund.
looking like it's
Half a
gonna be
million.
lower.
Right. By half
So
a
when we
million.
put that in town report, it'll be this budget or this budget.
Oh, that's scary.
What is What is principal expense offset by reserves?
Okay, so we just, in order to keep track of things a little better in the office, we have a principal line that is what is coming from taxes. That's gonna be your Whitney Hall, your public
Yep.
safety building, and half of a sewer project.
Yep.
But everything that's offset by capital reserves for the CIP capital reserves, we've decided to put that in a different line for the expenditure so that it doesn't, you would be looking at the principal line and be way overspent. Well, it won't be now. It'll all show up in this other line. It's offset by reserves. We
Right.
don't budget for it, but that's a place to put the expense. And at the end of the year, when
It
we get
cancels
the
out.
trustee of trust funds reimbursement, that will go down to zero.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay, let me go ahead and hand this around. I've kind of explained it, so we'll go ahead. And as we do this, if there's a column or something that you guys think would be really nice to have, that would be easy for us to add and maintain, we can discuss that, but these are what we put in thinking that it would be
So one more question.
easy
So
to track.
people vote. It's back to the standard stuff. We don't vote on the operating budget. We voted on the whole thing, right? Water, sewer, the whole 9 yards. So when you vote on the full budget, you're voting on the full budget for the whole thing. Okay. All right, thank you.
Not CIP,
What?
but not CIP.
But not
special
CIP,
warrant article.
right? Right.
That budget amount would come out and go into a separate warrant.
Yep. Yep.
Which would bring your operating budget and your default budget
Much closer to that,
by 600,000.
right?
There should be an extra copy for me too. I didn't get one.
Okay.
You have one there? Thank you.
So if you look at this, just to explain it, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Some of it for us, that's kind of how this started. In the past, there was a lot of times where I'd be reviewing the budget and I'd run to Elise's office and we, hey, let's change the budget, let's change the budget. So we decided to build this so we can just track that and then, once, twice a week, we can go in and just update everything. And then we just started seeing that it was kind of nice. So we took the 26 budget and the default budget, whatever was changing. And then we pulled that column next to it. That's either the budget change or the default change, just so you can see the 2026 budget is what we want the number to change to. So I'm going to use the second one down, assessing contracted services. We put it in the budget at 42,000. It needs to be 44. I got the assessing contract yesterday. So the number needs to be 44. So we know what that needs to be in the computer system. The budget change is an increase of $2,000 and then it adds down. If you look at the ones that lower that column, that's what we talked about, the principal expenses and the interest expenses that were pretty much closer to last year's numbers and they went down this year. So we got to subtract those out. So right now, the changes you're looking at is the two nets at the bottom, the negative, 137 and then the negative 55. So those budgets will be coming down by that much. And like I said, we'll continue to keep these updated. We may put one of these sheets if there's changes in your packet every time, just so you can see how they're changing as we move along.
If you're doing it, does that mean you can get a new one of these each meeting?
Every once in a while, maybe, but probably not every single meeting.
It's a lot of paper.
Yeah, but we're trying not to print all these big packets every single time. When we get near the end of the review of the budget time frame and we've changed numbers, we'll get you a new, fresh, this is where we're sitting type budget.
Ed, can I just ask a crazy question of, is there any possible way of, because obviously we're gonna be getting updates and changes of the date being printed on the bottom of these pages? So if we happen to get another one, we'll know what's the most current one.
We can probably do that.
It's on it. It's on
Not on
the
this.
master plan, no, it's not.
No.
It's
No,
on
it's not on
the
that,
master,
but we can
the
probably
master
put
report has.
at least the date or version 1, version 2, version 3.
We'll do something differentiate.
It'll be the same one every time. It'll just get longer and longer and longer. So I'll also be able to notice which one. But we can do something.
I mean, the footer. It does have the run date on it, Gene. Upper left.
No, she means this one.
No,
It's this form.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That has a
And-
column where things will be.
And I don't see the run date on this other one that says default budget.
No, but this next version that we're working on does.
Okay. It's just that sometimes I feel like when you start having to have more updated copies, then things can become, you say, I don't know. If I'm looking
That's
at.
kind of where besides paper, we don't want to give you a new one every single
Right,
week.
no,
where it's
no, I-
going. It'll be a few months and then we'll give you an update.
Yep.
Or not a few months. It'll be after the review process, probably November, December, we'll get an updated one and see where we're at.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
There, on page 11 at the bottom, dues is listed twice with the same number. Those are office supplies, postage, repairs and service contracts, are they different?
If they have the same number, probably not, it's probably a duplicate.
They have the same number down through,
Yeah, I'm not
zero
sure
one,
where we're
four,
looking.
four, one, zero, one, and then
Might have been
620,
copied
25, 630.
It was probably copied twice. I'll make note of that.
Okay.
I don't want to harp on our
The
wonderful.
dollar amounts are
system,
different
but
for them.
Everything's
I'm not
managed.
sure what we're talking about, so I need to know.
Page 11, the bottom,
Yeah,
you have dues, office supplies, postage, repairs and service contracts. They're on here twice and they've got the same number, but
on here twice.
They're
Okay,
not
where's
in
the other one?
Number though.
I'm not,
They're not the same account.
there's
Yeah.
the account number's 014441. That's
Yeah.
a different department than,
Yeah.
let's say dues, that's got a different worded. So the first two digits are the fund number,
they look the same.
then
with the
the
four.
next four are the departments. Yeah, there's 4411 and 4441.
Right,
Yeah.
And some of those office supplies, postage, those are the things we're trying to just start combining, so we have one line instead of one in every little
yeah,
part of the document.
makes sense.
Not only for budgeting purposes, but every time we do an invoice, we gotta code each one of
Right.
those into the system and
And do data entry in multiple lines instead of just a couple. So much more time consuming.
it's very.
So is the intent to go through the whole default budget at once, or are we going to the default budget as we go through department budgets?
As we go through the department budgets, what I planned to, oh, not the default budget, that was more for you guys to look at. I wasn't gonna go line by line through the
Okay.
default budget. Really, the default budget is the final number at the end.
Okay.
It's basically set by law.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just more for comparison purposes of where we're at, what that is, and if you guys have a question, we can give you an explanation, like if you need 74,000 here and 2,000 there, we can help explain those things, but
Right, some of the requested items that suddenly jumped, repairs and service contracts is one. Postage is one. Repairs and service contracts, telephone, we lump those together by buildings and areas like town office and public works and public safety.
and you will see some of that. It's not gonna be a huge cost saving like in the town office and PPW. We may be able to find a little over the next few years, but Chief Holland, when he comes in, will talk to you that moving those 3 buildings into 1 building, I think we're somewhere in the $8,000 worth of savings. Just not paying 3 phone bills, not paying 3 internet bills, those types of things, but combining some services.
We use the same copy before.
Kind of. The fire department and the ambulance didn't actually have full copiers, but they might have had copier scanner type things. But, yeah, he can explain some of that. There's a lot of stuff they did that saved some money.
Ready for administrative budget review?
Yep, we can go through that. Let me see where I put my papers. I'm gonna go through revenue first, but now I can. Much cooler.
Page 116.
Page 160.
It's near the end of your big. stuff.
Yeah.
It's in the back.
Hey, can I just ask one thing, maybe a suggestion, and tell me if it's in here somewhere, if I'm not seeing it, but school to do a crosswalk on page 18 that shows us, I don't need to see every single item, but if there are 4 or 5 key items that are driving the difference between the 13.1 million and the 9.5 million. Just so we know, okay, why is there such a delta? And I get it, it's, pulling out the one-time expenses and keeping the contracts as is, but if there are certain contracts, just, it'll be difficult for me to get my arms around unless I see something that says, hey, here are some things that are driving that.
I can look through and see. I mean, a lot of it's a lot of small stuff.
It is.
There are a few big things. I mean, one of them that just pops in the top of my head is Whitney Hall. We just did a big outfitting of Whitney Hall. We budgeted like 100,000 last year, and I
Yeah,
think this year's budget it's quite a bit less. It's 25,000 in the budget. There was some money that might get moved somewhere else because it's not part of a one-time thing, but it's a big drop, $50,000 or more.
And about 3.2 million is the water improvement project.
Yeah.
And CIP. That's it.
Yeah.
Those two things.
okay, and then there's 150, so maybe if we had like, all right, here's the pie chart of $33.2 million difference. This drives 40%, this draws 50% down to, and the last 40% is all other or something. We're gonna have to explain something like that when we get to the,
Yeah, I'll look if I can work on something.
yeah.
We'll
But-
try to put something together.
And at the same time, 3 million is CIP and water,
Yeah,
and you take 3 million from 13 and you're at 10.
10.
so great.
So
So
it's there.
getting a dollar figure for CIP and a dollar figure for water.
Yeah, there's your
Um,
CIP is on page 14 at the bottom. And water is,
Where we got page 14, I mentioned.
And that thing brings the
Talking
default.
about, yeah.
CIP is $579,369.
right? See the two CIP numbers,
Yeah, got it.
14 at the bottom, and the 2.75 million is page 16 at the top.
And I can go back through and do it too, but if you guys just scan those columns, you'll see a big difference and you can go, whoa, and if it doesn't,
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and-
one right there is helpful.
Right, and those essentially have to get quote unquote fixed, right? Like the CIP ones being in 2 columns, but not a third. That should be fixed, right?
yeah, we'll pull it out of the
Right.
Oh,
budget.
well, actually, no, it typically stays in your budget worksheet and it gets pulled out when we do the warrant and the warrant articles. And when we do the budget form, because it's part of your budget, but it's done as a separate article. It'll all be spelled out in the MS
We can pull it off
737.
this one.
Right, for the default
You
comparison,
could pull it off the default comparison, sure.
because otherwise people will think, oh, look, we vote for the default, it's $500,000 less. It's like,
Well, I don't know that anybody's gonna get this.
right,
No, but they'll get the numbers.
they'll get the
Bottom line.
numbers.
So it should be pulled out of all the columns. The beginning one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the differences aren't gonna be huge anyway.
And
Same for this.
we pull a few of those ones that technically aren't in there, out of there. It'll help us when we're writing the warrant there to go, here's where we're at, here. I think item that make the difference.
All right, revenue.
Revenue, so my plans to go through it kind of like we had before, pull out some of the highlights of it. If you guys have questions, we can try to answer them tonight or get you some of the answers. So the big one there, overlay and abatements, we dropped back down to normal. It was higher than last year. That's actually a negative number, which hurts for revenue. But, we dropped it back down to normal because we're not in a revaluation year anymore coming out of that, so we expect it to be a little closer to normal numbers. Moving down through, pretty much everything else in the top part is pretty close to what we've been budgeting before. The big number that everybody's gonna be looking at, the motor vehicle permit fees. I'll just jump pretty much that whole section. If you do the year-to-date actuals, we've been working on reconciling 2024, as you guys know. We've been really trying to get we got the tax collector numbers in the budget. I don't know if it should be in this one, in this actuals. But those ones,
But that doesn't show because.
the business license, motor vehicle permits, boat license, those things, she's in the middle of putting those in right now. So that's why those numbers are low. If I talk to you about the motor vehicle permit fees, right now we're sitting at $909,440 and some change. If we do equivalent to what we did last year in motor vehicles, we're trending towards 1.2 million total. So I budgeted 1.15 because we like to budget that number conservative because it ebbs and flows a little bit. And I'd much rather be a little under budget than over budget on revenues. The rest of those, we pretty much budgeted the same going down. Except for the franchise fees at the bottom, which 37,000 now, we would have gotten another payment. We would have been close to little under the 52,000 we budgeted, but the select board decided to take those out of the cable agreement. So now we get 0 in franchise fees.
Just one question, Ed, as you go through these and trying to keep up with, we're jumping, multiple sections and pages. Can you refer to at least page number, top, middle, bottom? I think it'll help us all.
Okay. Yep, just trying to move section to section. So the franchise fees is this second, or
Yeah,
last
franchise
line in the second one there. So we budgeted 0 there instead of the $52,000. So that's 52,000 less of revenue that we have. From there. So if you skip down, it's technically 2 sections, I guess, but you get the meals and rooms tax highway block grant, which is the next 2 bigger numbers, the 425,000, the 135. I did a little bit of analysis and looked at the legislative updates. It appears we're going to be getting about the same amount now, but they're slowly trying to whittle that down a little bit for us. So we'll have to see how that goes. But we budgeted 400,000 last year, but we've been getting more than that. We have 439 actual last year. We should be getting at least that amount, I think, this year. So I'm fairly confident bumping that up a little bit to 425 to try to offset, because we do have a revenue loss at the grand total at the end of this.
Ed, when do we get that? The 25?
It comes November-ish usually.
I'm sorry, which one? The rooms and meals?
Rooms and meals.
December 31st.
Yeah, we'll know in October, but
They generally, will know in October what we're gonna get, but we're not gonna actually see it in our bank account until the end of December,
The question was more, when are we gonna know it? It's gonna be October?
when the tax rate is set.
they'll usually let us know. I'll let you guys know as soon as we know. So if we need to make a little tweak to that, we can, but everything I'm reading from NHMA and the legislature coming out of it should be very similar to last year. Hopefully meals and rooms. Overall state tax continues to go up, and then if they whittle down our number, will stay the same. And then highway block grants, kind of about the same. I'm hearing we may get a little bit more, but we also have, you know, the inspections going away, those types of things may have a little bit of an impact. I did talk to our executive counselor. It would have to go through the legislature, but they're starting to talk about a total increase, those types of things, which will help us there a little bit. So again, with the amount we've actually been getting and where we're at, you see 2024 actual was what, 189, so it was quite a bit higher than today. I don't want to go too high on that, but I think 135 is a conservative increase and goes up a little bit. I highlighted cemetery. We budgeted 0 last time, but we seem to get a little bit more than that. But again, this year we have 1,200 year to date. We've had 1,350 in 2023. So I want to be conservative. So I budgeted that at the lowest number we've had. Planning board pretty much kept the same. We did get a little bit more this year, and we do, if permits come through, we've been having an uptick in permits. So that's a place we may be able to put a little bit more. And then zoning board, police department. Kind of the same thing. Zoning board, we're trending right on what we are now. If they get a few more permits, it may go up a little bit, but it's really small numbers at that point.
Ambulance?
That-
Ambulance?
Ambulance.
Are we collecting more?
We are collecting a little more. Where was that?
Down at the bottom of the page.
Next to the bottom. From the bottom.
Yeah, so we're responding more. You'll see as we go through the expenses, that expenses going up, personnel costs are going up. We're collecting more. We're kind of in this little weird spot with the new legislative change. It's gonna help us do better in our collections, which we've actually been doing really good on, but the legislature passed a bill where they set the amount that's gonna be allowed to be billed through ambulances. But then with that, they put a requirement on the back end that insurance companies have to pay that amount. So they can't try to negotiate down or do any of that stuff. It's, here's what you're gonna bill, there's what they're gonna pay. So it'll be a little bit easier on the collection side, except for people that don't have insurance. But so it should be easier there, but it's a little bit less than most people were actually billing, because, you know, when you're in business, if you will, if you're taking a loss here a lot, you bill a little bit higher so you can absorb the loss and move forward. So now that came down a little bit. And then Medicare, Medicaid still pays like 1/3 of that. It's a pretty low amount. So I do feel confident, and if you look, we brought in 44,000 so far this year. Guess if we want to roll the dice a little, we might be able to raise that up a little bit, but I don't know what that lowering of fees will actually do either.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you jump back up to line number 3? I wasn't yet caught up when you did that. The year to date being 58, why is that up so much?
Where are you talking, Dan?
I'm talking land use change tax, the 3rd line. On the sheet.
Yeah, that's a roll of the die. I can't tell you exactly why it's up, but somebody took something out of current use and it spiked. So let's say the Laramie Farms thing goes through and actually happens and they take it out of current use next year, that'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But
Okay.
I'm not gonna budget for that.
Right, thank you.
You'll see that coming up.
So, and then a clarification for people here. So this revenue report that we're budgeting is to kind of to show a glimpse of what we think will happen to taxes next year. But when the state sets the actual tax rate, they're gonna largely rely on actuals of the year.
Yeah.
Not what we have set on this piece of paper. Makes sense? So this is really for us to have an idea where we're gonna end up.
Mhm.
The tax rate next year is gonna be much more based on what actually happened, not what we think is gonna happen.
Yeah, and you
Fair
guys got
statement.
the revenue worksheet that we turned into the state at the last meeting. That's kind of what they're gonna use, and then they're gonna update some of their numbers and those things, and then at the last minute in late October, November, when we're setting that tax rate. If we need to shift those a little, we can, but they don't want us to move them around a lot, so it's still a little bit of a projection, but it's really pretty darn close to what we're actually gonna get, that they'll set it off of. It'd be different if something really weird happens in late December or something, but it's already set and bills are out by then.
Okay, how it goes into a formula.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
They talked about it today, how everything gets then fed into a formula that,
It's basically a black box that
yeah. So, yeah.
town gets back.
It made it sound really fancy though, yeah. Some guy,
We know.
got a small.
Pull it out of the hat. There you go.
Yeah. Advisor.
Transfer station tickets. As you can see, we have very little year to date.
Next
We're not really selling many unless we do something weird coming out of the solid waste committee. I don't expect us to be selling tons of transfer station tickets, so I wanna put that pretty low.
Is recreation still catching up on entries? Is that why?
Yeah, we just
Okay.
talked about that today. We'll get that caught up. What you see in there is pretty much checks and stuff that came in. It's none of the credit card stuff that gets auto deposited in the bank, which is most of our revenue for recreation. So we'll get that hopefully really soon, get that updated for you guys.
How about regional sports?
We're gonna have to play with the Mascoma regional sports a little bit. We are having revenue coming in, but we started doing some stuff where it's just flowing through that one fund, and we're gonna have to just even things up here at the end of the year, but that should be completely offsetting. The revenue coming in is what we expended on the other side. What we want to do in the future is run that through its own fund, so it's not in the general fund per se.
Okay, but like, wasn't that $36,000 contributions from other towns?
That was the plan.
Some of it was, and I need to work with them because there was a little bit of time. Pretty much basketball, softball season, our guy did nothing for
Yeah.
youth sports, so I'll be working on that. But it will equal whatever we expected.
Ed, are we still getting, revenue from all of the towns or not?
We've only done 1 year and we got a check from every town.
Oh,
So
okay.
we will,
Right.
I asked them all to budget for this year. We're about to send out bills for the year. And we'll see what we get back. What I have told them is if we don't get a check from you, then all your residents will pretty much be charged double to play sports. So,
Because at one time I thought we were having trouble with one particular town not wanting to help out, so that's good to hear.
we had trouble for a while with one town not even responding.
Right.
Talking about not doing it, and they sent us a check last
Oh,
year.
good. Well, that's great.
So we actually been working with the rec director on that. I like to send out bills along with, here's what we expect for next year type thing.
Does the money that's paid for the kids to play sports come to the town?
It does, and it goes into this youth sports fund as well.
But those are for out of town or so, right?
No, it's for all kids that play, and we actually pay into that account too, and then we pull money back out to offset, so.
Okay.
It makes auditing, or if the other towns want to see that account, they can see that we made the same payment that they made, and then it comes right back out. Think we're there. I'm skipping down about mid-page, sale and lease of municipal property. We budgeted 90,000 last year, and we may or may not get that. It was for the sale of Shed Street, which is not gonna happen. But
No.
we have a public hearing. It will happen, just not this year. We're in a circle spiral with DES trying to get it cleared to sell.
Which you had said that at last meeting anyways, Ed, that it wasn't gonna happen for this next budget.
The thing that might save us a little bit is at the next select board meeting, we have a public hearing to sell Depot Street and Union Street. And depending how we sell that one or both of those may be able to be sold by the end of the year, which might plug that gap in this year. I did leave it in next year for Shed Street, but I wanted to have the discussion with you guys because it's a little bit of rolling the dice. But if we take it out, it'll be a hit to the tax rate at the end of the budget cycle. So it's something to really look at and think about and talk about. And then we'll also know a little bit more about Union Street, Depot Street before we get to the end of the budget cycle.
Has DES given us any indication of how much longer we're gonna have to monitor Shed Street?
I'm guessing the monitoring wells themselves are probably gonna be for years, but I don't think that's gonna hold us up. We're waiting. A few weeks ago, we turned in another report from our contractors and we're waiting for them to respond to that. Depending on how that report comes back is, I guess, dependent on not only the sale of this, but how I'm gonna react to that. If it seems like we're just getting the runaround to test, then I'm gonna start getting governor, executive counselors and different people involved to see if we can get it clear. I don't mind testing monitoring wells every year for the next 10 years if we have to make sure it's not getting worse or something, but I don't wanna hold up the sale of this property and the development of this property.
And is the original person that was interested or willing to commit to this still?
Isn't there another piece of property on the other side of the rail trail that we were talking about? Something,
Yeah, it's owned by Jim Kelleher.
It's sold, it's sold
You
and
bought it?
purchased by someone else, But then there's also, and we can get into this a little bit more, but I know we've talked about it multiple times in different meetings, but the town has some other parcels that could be listed for sale too. I don't know what they would bring in, but they could be part of this $90,000 discussion for next year.
So we have at least 3 properties going, right? I would leave it in because I would assume something will go. And back with these numbers don't mean anything for the final tax rate. They only mean something for the number Dimi's gonna put on the screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the only thing you don't wanna do is go, we're gonna do this and this 90,000 lowers you by a percentage point, and then when the tax rate comes out, it's more than what you said, but
Something will happen.
we can continue talking about it. I wanna highlight it for you, so when
Yep.
you're looking at the total budget, revenues, tax number, all of that, it's I'm gonna call it a little bit of a strategic play there of whether we leave it in, take it out. If we take it out and the tax rate looks okay, all those things, and you get money, we can drop the tax rate going into next year. So,
It's just a projection. It won't actually make any difference at the end of the day. Right?
no, but we wanna
Yep.
project as close as possible, but also conservatively, because
Yep.
I really like going to the voters and saying, we project this, and this is what they actually get. And I would much rather do that than the
Yep.
other way around.
Me too. Okay.
So that's the revenue report, unless people have any questions. Again, as we get deeper into the budget, we can always review these and we'll continue to update them. If for some reason vehicles registrations go through the roof, we can look at that and see if we want to beat that up a little bit, those types of things. Or if Meals on Wheels comes in a lot higher than we expect, there might be something to put a little bit of money in.
And on the very last line, proceeds from long-term notes, we have 2,000 there for the budget this year, year to date, 0. And suggesting we budget 0 for next year. What's
The proceeds from long-term terms and notes, that's the Crystal Lake watershed. When we put in for that, we have to book the revenues. So. We will not get those this year. But we also, I mean, it's all booked, but if we put it in as an expenditure, I think we must have
Yes,
offsetting in the budget anyway, so those both will drop out of the budget for next.
I know it's usually a matter of, not sure what the word is, Ed, but I'm just wondering on the pages where there's all those X's, obviously this, it's like the cell is not opened up enough or something. Just wondering, moving forward, if we can make sure to have real numbers in there.
sometimes it looks fine on the screen and then it prints weird, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there a particular
Where
one
do you
you're
see it?
looking at?
Well, no, just a general comment,
Oh.
I think,
Okay,
yeah.
because I know we had something like that last time and thought that I had fixed it.
Page 123, 4155. There's a couple of those. And then there's a couple down in public safety and
They look fine on the screen when I do these things.
some subtotals for a couple of years.
No, it does that when the column width is not.
I know it does in Excel if it's not open up enough.
I don't know if it's printing that way when it looks fine to me on the screen, but I will double check that.
But if we want to go through expenditures,
Yep.
that's out there. If you start on page 21, give me a minute to get there. The first little chunk of your thing is a kind of a recap where everything's pushed together. If we go to page 21, it's the start of the budget again, but it's broken down.
No, we want to go further than that.
Well, I'm going to 21 because that's what I highlighted.
I'm gonna skip to 39.
Yeah, as I say, it's 39.
39 for everybody else.
Are we starting with 21 or 39?
Well, the interesting part is the bottom of the page says 39, the top of the page says 29.
Well, that's because the page
I know.
39 is created by our agenda software.
So bottom
Are
right.
you going by the
39.
bottom of the page?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going by the top.
Okay.
Well, then it's page 21.
Three or 21?
The one I brought was the budget that I printed out and not the packet.
22, 39.
Oh, dear.
So either one, 39 on the bottom, 21 on the top.
Okay.
It should be the 4130 executive budget.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of these, like I said, the third line down is telephone communications. You'll see that's a lot bigger number. If you look at the comments next to it, if there's anything concerning to you, it says right, the first thing, shared town office expense. It's one of those lines where it's putting all the shared costs together. The next one down, I wanted to highlight from 1800 to 2880. We got a new recording secretary this year. You'll see it in planning and stuff too. A new minutes taker costs more money. One thing we're working on, I don't know if you've noticed your minutes, but your minutes, we've done it with Conservation Commission. I think we did it with a select board meeting. Those are ran through AI and AI writes the minutes and then we make a few adjustments. If we can keep doing that, there's little to no cost. It's a little bit of staff time to do it, so we may be able to pull the number down a little bit, but we did the first select board meeting with the person that does them remotely, and it was a few hours at a higher rate, and it was like $400 a meeting, and it starts to add up pretty quickly.
Is that a contract or is that?
No, 100 and something. It was a lot more money.
It was a lot more. It was $120.
It's not a contract. We just hired her to do the minute, and we send her the ones that we want her to do. And
She still is doing select board, but CIP and budget have been done using the transcript from the Teams video from Teams and a combination of Copilot and ChatGPT. And then we proof them.
yeah, so we can put the transcript in and just say, can you summarize these in this format?
Conservation is AI.
And she's not doing the same thing?
I don't think so, but if she is, she's charging us a lot for it.
Yes.
She's probably doing the same thing.
Probably is.
So we-
I've been surprised. The one thing I do want to do is really, I guess, hone in on what prompt we want in there or multiple prompts to get what we want, but I did do the Conservation Commission minutes and it really pulled out some detail that I didn't think it would. And it did good. So we're experimenting with it, we're playing with it, but if we can do it through there a lot cheaper and still get what we want, then we will do that and try to save that money. So I'll just kind of go fast through a few of these. If you scroll down mid-page, office supplies, postage, repairs and service contracts, like she said, those are all shared expenses. That's why they're higher. At the very bottom of the page, I'll just highlight the executive personnel total, the 249.33. That's just putting in 3.2% COLA based on the Boston metric. There is one thing I want to talk about that's not added in the budget that I think we should discuss as we go through.
Before you move on to that. How do we go from 154? I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. It's 3.2 over the
374.
budget. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I understand that the default budget doesn't include COLAs unless they're contracted.
No. Yeah, we did not add any salary increases to the default budget. That's
But we would give salary
No.
increases.
not, well, a default budget, we have to work within the budget.
Right.
And it's one thing that's, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but that's what's killing a lot of towns across New
Yeah.
Hampshire. Is the default budget has been voted in 4 or 5 years in a row and employees are not getting cost increases.
How does our union contract? square
Union
with that?
contract would be contracted in. So,
That's contracted for the number of years that the contract lasts.
so you can either contract it into a default budget and let it continue rising. I've seen other towns pull that out as a separate warrant article, so people are voting on contracts separate. I know the school district's done that in the past, that they said, here's our budget, here's the salary increases. So there could be.
Be
Yeah.
foolish not to.
Right. Unfortunately true.
But it is one thing that's really, I know I talked to the town administrator or manager in Weir, and they're on their 5th or 6th default budget in a row. It's just, she said my town office staff is down to 1 or 2 people. They're struggling. So it's one of the things I hope we can put a good enough picture together, because that's one of my areas moving forward. But anyway, I wanted to talk about a project. Been working with Elisa. She's planning on retiring next December, not this December. So it's a little over a year from now.
And Julie's retiring when?
This
Is 77 days?
Mhm. She's got to count down.
I've been threatening them for 3 years since I've been here that you better not go at the same time. So they're a year apart. But with that, I did not put it in the budget, but I would like to talk about adding $85,000 to this line item to hire a CFO, an actual CFO for half the year, and that'll let them overlap for 6 months. It'll get us a little bit past town meeting before we start the hiring process, which I think we need to do anyway to know if we have a default budget or not. And then it would allow me to hire someone, get them in the office. We'd have 6 months of overlap, plus we'd have someone to really start digging into finances a little bit. So,
And that would be instead of the assistant town
No,
manager or in addition?
it would be, long-term, it would be instead of, but I want to look at how stuff goes in the office, and it may end up in a year and a half or something becoming a lot smaller, another position to do the newsletter, those types of things. But I want to, right now, it would be an overlap to replace Elisa. I've been moving her closer and closer and closer to the CFO level, but I would like to actually hire someone with really good, strong finance experience.
Do you think you're gonna hire a CFO at 85,000 a year that's not right
It's
out
not
of college?
85,000 a year. It would be 120,000 a year plus benefits. This 85 breaks down to 60,000 for half a year, plus half a year's worth of benefits. So, and I think we're in the ballpark of where we could get someone there. Of course, your Lebanon's, those people are paying more than that for a finance director, and then a lot of smaller towns are paying a little less than that.
Mhm.
We were, well, it's been a while. I need to check, but we were around the 100,000 range in Claremont, but we did have some trouble finding people. So,
So, and I got a couple of thoughts, and I hope to have this conversation with you before bringing it out, but while it's on the table, I guess. It appears to me that, yes, we need help in finance and support of the CFO, whether it's 6 months or 3 months or whatever, we can talk about all that. However, it appears to me that we need somebody not only at a high level, but at a low level. Right now, it seems like the data entry is really something that you've said, we're behind, we're trying to catch up, we're trying to catch up, we're trying to catch up. And let me finish and then please respond. We maybe could get somebody, even like, I don't want to say somebody in high school, but somebody very inexperienced, train them with data entry that would free up some of our people that are currently doing it to do more robust things. Because it feels now like we have somebody that's a heavy equipment operator using a shovel.
Right.
And so as we're having this discussion, maybe we could incorporate that as well, but.
yeah, no, we can definitely talk about them. That's what I was looking at the end of this cycle. Maybe not necessarily even just data entry, but every month Elisa creates the newsletter, and there's a lot of those little things that could be done if we had someone else to do them.
I'm pretty conservative fiscally here, but I see it as an immediate need. We're behind right now on a number of different areas, and I'm not saying anybody's fault. It's just, it seems like we don't have enough people to do the work. And right now, looking at our audit is still delayed. And there's a lot of things that are delayed that are gonna hurt us. So I would be willing to look anybody, paying taxes in the eye and say, yeah, we needed this.
Yeah, no, we do. I just, with the default budget, we cannot hire anybody before March. We just can't.
With the default budget, we can't.
If we get to March and they vote in the default budget.
Yeah.
I guess we could hire someone and let them all off in a few months, but I don't think that's fair to those people or, we're staring this. We're talking about adding money, but we may be losing money. It's
So what you're saying is after March.
as soon as March is over, we
As soon as you
can
could do it.
You
start.
can see where
And
we are.
So,
depending on how the year's going, if we start advertising, say we even advertise in March, but I've seen that come back to bite you, that people are like, you're already advertising this position that we haven't approved yet. So after the vote, we can start in March, we can have it ready. But if you're hiring a CFO, that's at least a 2-month hiring process to really vet people, get them in here. Most people at that level are gonna want to give a month or more notice to their current employer. I'm comfortable at half a year, and if we get them in June or the end of May, I'm sure I can figure out how to make that payment if I have to, but I don't want to over budget and then have a bunch of extra money because we did this, and I want to get them on as soon as possible.
So Ed, then you're saying that your plan would be to hire a CFO and then we would no longer have an assistant town manager?
No, they would end up taking that position.
Okay,
The way Elisa came up through being the assistant to the town manager and becoming the assistant town manager, I'm calling it a CFO as much to say, I want to hire someone with high-level finance experience. We're gonna put some other tasks on them, and if we don't get someone else in the office, they still may be making newsletters and doing that kind of work too, but I would love to just get them focused on finance.
You're not gonna get the right message if you tell them they're gonna be making newsletters as well as.
And gonna work. Is there any way to, if we need this person now to catch up, is there any way to fit?
So
I don't think there is right now. I would be very uncomfortable that we'd be going over budget if we did that.
And you have to keep in mind that we were dealing with the 2024 items because of previous issues. That's done. It's all gone to the auditors. It's in their hands. All of 2024. So we can concentrate on 25. We have a new person in 25 learning how to do the whole process. So she was slower to begin with, and she's picking up speed as she gets experience.
Yeah, we're making
We're getting there.
strides. And like she said, this week we've done everything to the auditors for 2024. So we're not dealing with 2024 anymore. We're into 2025. We're putting revenues in. Those should be in soon. We can start the reconciliation process.
Some things have been started already.
We're hopeful to have 2025 reconciled by the end of 2025 or going into 2026. The other thing that I'm hanging a little bit of my hat on is the finance software that's being built and ready to be repurposed this year. That's going to automate a lot of the basic data entry that we're doing. It should really streamline reconciliation. A lot of those things that we're struggling with because of the computer software as much as everything else that we had to deal with.
What are the internal controls for reconciliation?
Right now, we have APs put in this building, police building, and then we do some in the town office. The lady that does the entry for that does AP and payroll. Elisa right now is doing the reconciliation. We're gonna be looking at the long term, who does what there, but if we bring a CFO person in, they'll probably be doing that piece of it. And then Julie, who's our assessing clerk, does all select board revenues into the system, and then the clerks do everything on the town clerk side into the system. So there is segregation of duties, even though we have a really small staff. Probably in the business world, there may be a few things that kind of fudge up against that line of who should be doing what, but we try to really keep those segregated, and all of our expenses, those types of things, we try to get 2-3 eyes on them before they go out the door. And then we will be working, one of the things we're trying to work on with our auditors is to line that out a little more, get recommendations from them every year, but it's something that they excluded from the last one.
Are the audit reports, public?
Yes,
Yeah.
Could I have a copy of them?
they're all online.
Mhm. Okay.
You have some, if you want to look at them.
In your experience, have been major benefits.
And then as soon as the one for this year's done, we'll have them come in and talk to the budget committee as well.
That will be done before January, though.
I hope so. It's in their hands right now, so I will be pushing them. There's usually a few little things at the end, legal letters, those types of things we need to do. I'm gonna talk to them and see if we can just get that started now. For the most part, it's have our attorney write a letter saying what we don't have any pending lawsuits, those types of things, but they don't want to do it. So see if I can get a lot of that stuff going, just so it's done and ready. Doesn't take a lot of time, but it's another week on the end of things when you're asking your attorneys to do that stuff. So,
when do you expect to be caught up on data entry?
I would say hopefully within the next month, but hopefully before that, but
Now that I'm not doing 2024 and going over every transaction that happened throughout the year, I can, do some of that.
So
so we've
basically,
really moved that focus. We've gotten, like I said, taxes caught up. We've done a quarter of the year in town clerk. So we have another 2 quarters to go pretty much to get that caught up. And then we have the recreation and a couple other little things. I talked to Elisa this morning about her, and I'm gonna sit there, learn some too. And if we can get recreation, some of those easier things in, then we can just concentrate on top of it. So,
but basically the problem is being addressed. It just takes a while.
yeah.
And then it will be gone.
No.
So I think we need to look at it. I mean, I agree that we need some of these things. It wasn't budgeted into this year, so we don't have the money this year to do it. I've talked to staff about, can we bring a temporary or someone on for just a little while? I can probably find the money for that. And what I've gotten from both of them in the past was, it's gonna take me longer to train them how to do this than it is just to put my head down and get it.
I've worked with temps before in school district offices and
Yeah.
yeah.
When it comes to finance.
It's just,
that's not
it's so
something-
different than
Right.
regular finance and,
I always dreaded chances.
no,
It
it's,
can become a very
it's
big.
tough in the
Right.
computer system. You have to do it
agree
in
with that.
I'll get on our computer system again, but it's not as simple as going to one page and putting your revenues in. You have to go to multiple places in the computer and, if they go in and do it wrong, now we've compounded the problem. It's, both of them said, just let me do this. And, if we need someone in there, I've been trying to do some of the other stuff and we might be able to do some of that, but
What is the select board recommendation?
I have not.
Has it come up at the select board?
Not in as thoroughly as it's come up here, let's say.
we've talked finances. We haven't talked about the position.
I don't think we have a decision. I don't think we have a position,
We can talk about it if you want to. talk
you know.
about
I think it would be,
I'd love to hear so almost a unified recommendation from this board.
well, we all know that finances has been a pain point,
We know that too.
so.
So when you give the committee report to the select board, is that something that you would include?
Well, and let's have a few more conversations here, but I think it would be good, and I agree with John, that if we can go to the select board and say, we've had this discussion. We'd like to add this position and get their support as well, it'd be a stronger front.
Right.
Well, I would.
Right, that's the tricky issue, right? If we can accomplish that, I think that'll give us some leverage and a little momentum.
I would
Select
phrase
boards
that-
are always hesitant to, add positions.
Right, and I would phrase it as
So
not
are we-
adding a position, we're changing the scope of a position, and in this transition, we're gonna make these changes.
Right.
Can I ask how much the audits have costed?
I don't know if it's,
18,000, give or take.
No, that's not an issue.
that ebbs and flows a little, it's around there, if we need a single audit, because we got so many grants, it goes up, and
So, one way to look at this is to ask for a current organizational chart and a future organizational chart, and then a job description for each job. And then, yeah, like detailed, like, okay, because right now you have a lot of people doing some of the things, kind of all hands on deck. I'm not saying the perfect world, because we can't afford the perfect world, but in a really good world, what would you want? And I think we'd give you some time to try to put that together and sell us on it. And I would encourage you again to try to take some of that more mundane but necessary stuff off of the plate of your working professionals.
like I said, I can do that, and I would like to make the transition, I've put some thought into this with, if we have 2 people in the office next year, and adding that other little mundane position would be a waste, if you will. It'd be extra money, extra stuff. We'd have 3 people doing the job of 2 now for a half a year. Or not 2, because it's probably more than 2 people's worth of work, but 2 people are doing it right now. But I do think, and that's why I said it that way, at the end of that 2026 year, all of that extra money may not fall away, because we may want another position to do some of the smaller mundane work. But I think this will be a segue into that, and I don't think it'll cost a lot more than maybe what's there, but it should be maybe around the same, maybe down a little, maybe up a little, but it should be very similar to what we put in the budget this year.
Well, I think also having somebody with the finance experience, I think you could probably put together what it's cost to not have somebody here with finance experience over the last few years. Might make up the difference. Might be very persuasive.
If you, it's actually, I think it may actually be simpler, if you just sit here. Sorry, I always say it, if Alyssa retired and you were going to hire a new assistant town manager, you have several months of overlap, right? Like we do for almost all the positions. That is $1
Much
amount,
more than most, yeah.
right? We budget, rephrase, we budget for that in most cases for key roles where we have overlap. Whether or not it happens is a different story. That is $1 amount. And I think that's what we compare against, not zero, because that's not what we would do. So we're not asking 85,000 versus zero. We're asking for 85,000 versus the standard transition when there's staff changeover at a higher level, where you have X amount of months of overlap. And I think in that grand scheme of thing, considering the fact that we want to switch to more finance, we have finance problems, I think that case is going to be made easily. For that part.
With the board's permission, I'd like to ask Tracy's opinion, because he is the other alternate to this board. Tracy, have any thoughts?
John made a good point about hearing a strong consensus from this group. Based on a recommendation from Ed, I think, as to what the next step ought to be. There is a certain immediacy to the issue. And it may need something, as Dan pointed out, to be addressed in the nearer term than later. I'd leave that to this board to see whether they think that that is the case or not. I think it's something that needs to be monitored very carefully. On the longer term, as Ed pointed out, at the end of 26, where we bring in a CFO / assistant town manager, we would definitely need to have someone pick up a lot of what Alyssa does right now. It's not, a lot of what she does is simply not going to fit in with the new CFO.
Right.
And it wouldn't be appropriate to throw it back at Ed either, say, now you do the town newsletter, for example. And that's a very small item in what has to be done. It's just a ton of work that has to be done on a day-to-day basis, monitoring all the logistics of the town and the small points. So there would be a position in 2026 beside 2027 besides the CFO. But there also may be an immediacy question that needs to be addressed, something that needs to be addressed by January 1st. I'd leave it to this group to decide whether that is the case and work with Ed on a recommendation.
I can get you a cost for that too, but
Thank
again, I
you.
think it would be after town meeting. I don't think we can do it in January. I would love to, but.
I would agree that, like, you don't want to hire a high-level person and then come March, say, sorry, we don't have the budget for it, fired.
Or a low level person. I mean, they're.
I know, or
they're
low,
making
or low,
sacrifices to come.
right,
think-
but on,
yeah.
on the low level, I would think, so here, if somebody said we need low-level help sooner, you would look at contract work, right? You don't have to do a full-time hire. That being said, I'm with the two ladies. I have been in similar positions where you think more work will help and bosses throw more bodies at you and all it does is slow you down.
Yeah.
And if you're a month away from being caught up, I think it will slow you down. If you
So we're
told
a
me,
month away from revenues being caught up and then we have to reconcile 2025 and we're hoping to get that done by the end of the year.
okay.
So.
And so,
I want to be clear. I certainly would never suggest, and I don't think anyone here would, injecting any new personnel before the end of the year.
Robert, you said.
There's
you
a
wanna
ton
address
of
it
work
by
that needs to be
January.
done by January 1st. An immediacy issue, when I say that, I'm saying something following January 1st.
Okay.
Ed makes a very good point about waiting until town meeting. That has to do with if you hire someone in January and you have to lay them off on March 12th or whatever date after following town meeting. That is a difficult issue, and whether that could fit into the 26 budget, especially considering the possibility of a limited budget, that could be a difficult situation.
And we'll look at that. We'll look at it.
Following up on Dan's idea, so I think, it's sort of standard in my industry and in many other industries of working very hard to get people to work at the highest level of their skills and qualification and experience. And I don't think we're doing that as effectively as we may be able to do with some careful thinking about that.
I can get you some numbers right now, if you guys want them. You know,
I feel like this is an issue that needs to have some thought and some discussion. I don't feel like it's something we can just say, okay, this is what we're doing and this is what we wanna do.
I agree. I wanted to introduce it tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing
It's a long-term discussion. I didn't want to throw it to you in November. but-
Yeah. No, I appreciate
I
that.
think you've introduced it and underlined it 3 or 4 times.
If you want your numbers. It's 28 28.3 thousand for 2 months. And 42.5 for 3 months. And then the 85,000 for 6 months. I would probably in this position want a 3 month, but depending on the budget we're dealing with, it may be a 2 months. Nothing else we've had in the town has went over a 1 month.
Yeah.
But I do think this is an important enough position to at least have 2, if not 3, to overlap and start to learn, especially that more than likely you're gonna get someone that has finance experience that has not worked in government finance. Which is
Even that,
a
it's almost
whole
impossible to
different.
find people that have worked in nonprofit experience, let
Yeah.
alone adding the town piece to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a whole different
good
animal.
point.
A lot of times, actually, really high-level finance people cannot handle it when they get in government, just because it's so different.
So different.
It's like, no, I can't.
It's the same with nonprofit versus profit.
I've seen that happen more often than.
And do we have an HR person in town?
Nope, our finance people do that too. I do the discipline side, all the, I mean, I don't wanna say the time consuming, but our AP payroll bookkeeper does open enrollment, all of those.
Have we ever worked with an HR consultant?
We have not.
I've been thinking about the whole HR situation myself, yeah. And I don't know of any large organizations that don't have an HR.
Yeah.
And Kimball Union isn't that huge, and we had at least an HR full-time and an assistant full-time.
And we have talked about, we've talked a little bit about HR consultant, we've talked more about some of the data entry stuff, you know, contracting payroll, doing those
I'm
types of
thinking
things.
more of the strategic stuff.
The strategic HR now, not at all.
Simply explaining health insurance to employees.
Yeah, and we do that, and we have some really good partners and the brokers that can come in and really explain it in detail about how all that stuff works. It's the day-to-day hand holding that's
A lot of
hard for a
towns don't have
consultant to really do. I mean, we can say here.
Crucial, I think, sometimes, yeah, absolutely.
No, but
Ed,
We do it, it's just another one of those
But
things. If we
Yeah.
hand them a business card and say, call this person, it's not as personal. It may be a little easier in the office, but
Yeah,
Is
we're
it
gonna
what
get
they
a lot of pushback. It's not what they need. Yeah.
Ed,
They need someone to sit there on the phone with them and help them at the time that they're doing it.
yeah.
different subject.
Yes.
Do we have overlap in here for Julie?
Julie's this year, yes. We have
It's in
1
there?
month overlap in here.
Ooh,
Remind me, when is the software supposed to be online?
April of next year.
Long time.
Okay. April. It's not that far away.
No.
It'll be here before you know it.
Why?
too fast.
yeah, we
It's
have,
gonna be wonderful and I can't wait, but I also know that last month of that is gonna be a lot of work. Or 2 months of that. So we're getting there. We've been.
I'm almost thinking, like, it would be great if the software were actually June and you hired the person in April. So they were here for that, but
Well, that'd be the safe time to.
I actually disagree in that it'd be too confusing to try and get into the municipal government and get into the new software when it can already be in place and then they can just work
While
on
you're
it.
learning the old antiquated side.
well, I wasn't thinking that. I was more seeing being part of having the new software get on its feet and up and running and maybe, yeah, maybe not.
Well, they'll come in, we can get some training from them directly from the company. And then they can hit the ground running, learning the new software.
So,
They can actually become the professional. We talked about that today, like it has new budgeting software, those types of things, and the new person would just run the whole budgeting process next year. With Lisa in the next office over.
so your request is not really about the whole CFO side, it's more, hey, can we have a longer overlap?
Yeah.
And then make some more changes,
And get them in here sooner. To
right?
help if we're still doing things, we're in new software coming over, we're gonna be doing budgeting. It's really a longer learning process and getting someone at a high level and fast.
And so I think, I
No,
don't,
we've been moving in that direction for probably 4 to 5 years now. For the assistant town manager position to kind of be holding that.
Right,
CFO
and so-
type title, but getting.
if we take the title out, because at the end of the day, we're dollars and cents, right? The discussion is not the dollars and the cents, it's how much overlap should there be for this role going into next year.
But I think it's important
I know,
to paint that other picture, and we don't need to change the title on the organizational
Right.
chart. It can be the assistant town manager, but I want everybody to understand they're gonna be working at that chief financial officer level.
right. But at the end of the day, the ask is for, can we have more than 2 months overlap? Which I think, from my point of view, would be, yeah, like, absolutely, we need it. That would be like a dumb recommendation in my mind to the select board, hey, we should not have more than 2 months overlap.
Finding this person may take some time too.
Do we typically use a recruiter to find positions like this?
We might on this one,
Do we have any money in the budget for a recruiter?
we don't.
You might want to consider that.
I can see how much that would be.
Quality of the individual and the amount of time it takes you. They screen them, they send 3 in, and the 3 good candidates as opposed to 13 not so good candidates.
Does New Hampshire Municipal Association offer any of those services?
Yeah, they'll do recruitment. There's a couple other companies that have recently come on the market that compete with them. One of them did our compensation study this year for about half the cost of MRI, but who does a better job at recruiting and headhunting, I don't know, but
What did we do for, do you know what we did for hiring your position?
MRI.
Okay.
And I don't know what they charge. We could probably look back for the recruiting part, but they also filled in with an.
Yes.
Which we wouldn't need any of that. We would just need the recruitment part.
Yep.
I'll talk to the one guy I know too that just started doing it, because that might be one that we could do almost even a little more hybrid. We can work with him, but we can create some of the documentation and those things that go out. Keep the cost reasonable, not that I want to add more work, but that stuff's not hard to do. And then let them do the, like you said, the screening, the 95 applicants, to boil it down to 10 or 12. And then we'll also I will put a committee together to do that. I'm not gonna make those types of hires for the town by myself, but.
So we'll definitely add some money to the budget for the standard, hey, we have a position change, we want overlap.
I'll look at recruiting.
I think that's not gonna do it.
That's fine. So if you put pretty much 14.2 thousand per month that we want to overlap.
Right.
Quick math, anytime you go, here's pretty much what we need to put.
And even if you filled it within 2 months, which I think is aggressive. I think that's very aggressive. So
If we filled it in 2 months.
2
and
months
we
and they
started
start-
right after March, you're looking at May timeframe.
Right.
We're budgeting a half a year.
You're right
It's
there.
pretty much anywhere. I think it's gonna be more of a June, July timeframe if you started right away. Especially if you get.
Because they're gonna give
recruiters and stuff
notice.
involved. It's gonna delay the process, but you're gonna have
Yeah.
a little more robust process.
Right, like, but gonna take some time to get it off the ground once it gets approved. Some time to get applications in, review those. You're not gonna have somebody hired in a month. They're gonna give their notice. Because if you're finding somebody who starts the next day, that'd be weird.
You probably don't want to.
Right, so it's not gonna be 2 months, it's gonna be 3 months, so you're right, it's gonna be July, so I think even saying planning for 6 months is like best case scenario.
Yeah.
I'll say, cause somebody may end up having to give like a 3-month notice.
No, I
for
put a,
anything like that.
I put quite a bit of thought into what we want to do and, did the breakdown of half of her budgeted salary,
2 to 3 months.
half of I did what average benefits are. So it gets us really close to what it'll be, whether they come in with a family plan or a 2-person plan, I mean, all that's gonna change. But I'm very comfortable with that 85,000 number. If you do that, we may need a little bit on there for recruiting. Let me get some costs and see what that is, because I mean,
And I
if we
agree,
think August is the time frame and recruiting's $1,000, $2,000, maybe we don't need to add it anymore. If it's $5,000 or $6,000, then we might need to add it.
does anybody feel different about the fact that we should wait until we know whether the budget passed?
I feel of any choice.
No, I feel a little bit differently. The CFO, I absolutely agree. The more junior person, I'm thinking about it, it's part-time or like 20 hours a week. And having a conversation with them up front that, hey, we got a situation here. We might only need you for 3 months, but if it works out for you and it works out for us and works out for the budget, we'd love to keep you for the whole year. I think there might be some people.
Well, the thing we might be able to do with that is go through a temp agency or a contract agency like that, and you can always, if it passes and things are good and they're a good person, you can bring them
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
At today's meeting, there was a couple of vendors that they gave them an opportunity to speak, and one was from Municipal Resources Inc. I'm sure you're familiar with them. And then Business Solutions was another one that seems like they might be able to provide trained financial temp help. And I know there's limitations to that, but
I can call them. I've called MRI a few times and
Yeah.
they're overwhelmed and they only had like one person that knew how to use our finance software.
funny today, they sold it like they could do everything.
Of
Yeah.
course.
I've called them a few times.
Yeah.
Every time I've
That's where
called it,
Jack came-
oh, we're full.
That's where Jack came from. Our
Yeah.
temporary.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, now we,
And actually,
We've
when we
used
had
that
the
for
financial stuff going on last year and we didn't have a bookkeeper. I called them, I called Lebanon, I called a lot of people just to say, can I hire someone for a few hours a week?
Yeah.
But, and everybody was down, we're full.
So I just worked harder.
We divided and conquered.
We did actually. You did payroll.
I did payroll, Chantel did some payroll, DPW was down here running payroll and finances, and just go. So we got through it, but I did call immediately and tried to get someone in here to help to cover.
Anything else, or because I think we've chewed on this long enough.
Yeah.
And blast through some more of this. If we get to a point where you guys want to stop, we can come back to the executive portion of this at any time. I'm here every meeting. Moderator and assistant moderators up. If you go to the back of that page, you'll see this multiple times. We're going from 1 election to 3 elections. And so the next one happens to be election. So that's where most of those are at, or all of those are at. Again, you'll see a couple zeros on here where we had budget last year. Those are shared expenses. Again, it's telephone, post office, office supplies. If you drop to the bottom, supervisory checklists and ballot clerks are up because we have more elections. Makes sense. If you flip the page to finance administration, you'll notice right off the bat, if you look, that the salaries are about a little less than half. what we did, and you'll see it on another page coming up, is I never knew why they did it. I think the state used to do it, but our assessing department was always put in the financial budget. And this year we're moving assessing out to an assessing page, and then finance.
Mhm.
It always confused me when I look through finance and, oh, but there's a bunch of assessing stuff in here. So you'll see some of those costs change just mostly because of that. The finance personnel's down. There's again, a few zeros going down the page. There's 2 and then a skip and then 3. We moved all those to shared expenses. Again, more towards the bottom. On the vital, on the vital stuff, it was moving personnel around a little bit. We had tax. Tax again was separate than the town clerk's 2 separate departments. For years now, they've been the same people, so we put them together. The bottom of this page and the flip side of the back side is the computer stuff. It always ebbs and flows, what we need in software, what we need in hardware, those types of things. In last year's number was some of our admin software. So this year, if we add it all together, I don't have the exact number for you. I can get that, but our computer support went up just a little bit. If I just pulled the Excel's columns down, it showed 141 last year, 115 this year, but we moved the admin software up to actual by where our finance software is. So adding that back in, we're somewhere in that 150, 160 range. We're really getting really close on getting all our computer stuff spiffed up this year. We have some switches and a big firewall transition to do. But then everything's pretty much caught up. We got a new server last year. We got 2 new switches last year with the public safety building in Whitney Hall. So there's just a few things there. We are caught up now, except for a few computers, which will happen in this cycle. That everything will be within that 5-year window, and we'll just cycle of like 6 computers a year to stay on that cycle. Keep everything up to date and under warranty. We've done a good job over the last few years of getting our computer and IT stuff up. We did a couple other things this year that are integrated into some of this as well. We started, it's a company called Nova4, but it's automated phishing attempts and training and stuff for staff. So we get a little better training on our cybersecurity side of things instead of just us regurgitating information or getting to people. There's actually some tests and things going on. And then we also implemented Bitwarden password manager software so they can keep all their passwords in a secured location that'll autofill for them. So those were 2 things, something we were thinking about doing anyway, but then it came out of our government audit for cybersecurity as well. There really wasn't anything on the finance administration, which is page 25. That's, I think, pretty straightforward. You go to property assessment. This is the, is this the assessing? Yeah, this is the assessing portion that we started filling in. So if you see last year, it was all budgeted 0, and this year there's money in there except for the contracted services, which was Norm's assessing contract. We estimated it at 42,000. We've been kind of ticking up by a couple thousand here and there. But I did talk to him the other day before we got the new contract and said, I do think we might need a little bit more from you because we're going to have a new person in Julie's spot. So the new contract that came out was a 44,000 this year, 46,000 for the year after that.
He hasn't given you any notice of intent to retire, has he?
No, we just signed a 2-year contract. He is retiring from Hanover. He's put in his notice the end of this year. He's done there, but he's going to do some contract assessing work after that. So he plans on staying here for at least 2 years unless he terminates the agreement, there is a termination clause, but from what I've heard, he wants to stay on, he wants to continue to do that some, and to keep him busy, so.
And how,
You said 44,000 instead of 42?
Yeah, and that's in your updated spreadsheet, and we'll get that updated.
and how many, his contract, Ed, is that for a specific number of hours or how is that done?
No, in the past, we've done it where it was kind of, this is what you need to budget, and it's gonna be a per hour basis, and he said moving into retirement, he's moving like every other assessing contractor, that'll be 44,000 a year, and he's gonna do everything that's necessary. If it's a little less than he thinks, then he's making out. If it's a little more, we're making out. And we'll kind of keep track of that a little bit, but
He certainly knows the town well.
he knows the town well. His prices are, I'm gonna say on the low side, but very comparable with some of the other ones. I think it's a lot bigger city, so it's hard to tell. But in Claremont, we had one and it was 96 to 100,000 for a contract assessor.
The institutional memory that he brings with him almost has no accounting. You couldn't pay for it.
I agree.
Well, and I think it's fair, when he gave me the contract, I looked back at what we've been paying and where we're at, and I was very comfortable with it, so. But it is moving to a per month basis. This is what it'll be. Equal 44.
And in the next few years, we'll be seeing him leave too.
Sooner or later we will, but I also, we had that conversation in the office with Julie leaving and stuff, do we just go for an assessor or something like that? And I don't think we're at a spot where we need that. I think having a contract assessor with someone in the office to do the work that we need for this town. Legal expense, page 27. I raised that by $5,000. We are gonna go over expense a little bit in the actuals. And then with the union contract, some of those things, I think it's worthwhile to bump that up a little bit. Page 28, personnel administration. Halfway down, new hire expense, $1,500. That's a little bit for the recruiter, I guess. I was planning on doing the recruitment, but we can bump that up when I get that number for what a recruiter actually costs. And then health insurance number, we don't have the final number yet, but we did talk with our broker and she said what they're seeing across the board for most people is 10 to 12%. So we're expecting. So I think that number, is that 10%? I think we put 10%
We
in.
did 10%.
So we're on the low side of that. So that could creep up a little bit more, but we'll have to look at our overall expenditure for this year and what we're going into next year.
But we would know by the end of the year, right?
Yeah, we will. We did bump up that 643 a little bit. That's why I stayed on the lower side of that until we have a little bit better information. And then health admin fees, we didn't budget enough for that, if you can see. So we budgeted that for 5,000. That's for the company that runs the PFA, which is like an HSA program for us.
So Ed, we're staying with the same program we have this year. We feel like.
We are, I'm
Learning curve.
putting together a group right now. When we talked with our broker, she gave us a few different options we can do, keeping the same insurance, the same program.
Yeah.
But, there's the PFA program that we do. I think I explained that last time, that it hangs a little bit of risk out there for the town. But, there's HSA options, which that money goes to the employees and it diverts the risk from us. It kind of rewards employees that don't spend it all because they get to keep that money in their HSA. There's a few other options, but I wanted to get a group of employees together with her to explain that.
Yeah.
Then we'll get our numbers and then we can have the discussion as a group as well. The other thing we're planning to do is keep that same or very similar group of people to start to educate them a little more on all the benefits the town has. There's some things like the ICMA 1% match that the town does, those types of things that a lot of employees don't take any advantage of. So we want to make sure that we're explaining those benefits a little bit more thoroughly. And I think it'd really help, and my department heads thought it would help to, have someone on the ground when they're, out there working, digging a hole or something, that they can be talking about these benefits and those things instead of just me coming in trying to talk to people.
You anticipate that the union negotiations will change that significantly?
I don't think it'll change it too significantly. We need to talk about what we want to do. We're not allowed for another year to go back to Health Trust where we were. So it's not like they can come in and say, we want to go right back there. They could maybe try to negotiate to go back to them in a year from now, but we wouldn't know what that cost, any of those types of things. And, we will negotiate, because I think going back to the same plan we were on is not, it wasn't feasible. The reason we left, when you take 33 employees and move and you save $250,000, there's something not right there. I've talked to other towns that are looking at moving 12 to 20 people, and they're not even saving $100,000. So there was, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that other company was doing something wrong. It was obviously based on risk and all those things, but we had a pretty big savings, and, $250,000 to the taxpayers is hard to explain, and it's also a cost savings to employees.
If I recall from the select board meeting, you're the select board representative for those negotiations?
I am.
Yes.
So we'll be talking through those things. I don't know what they're bringing to the table. I don't know that we have a lot. We're gonna try to get a first contract out there. I think the big thing we'll be talking about it, but I think the big thing we're bringing forward is here's the personnel policy, and we want to treat employees as fair as possible across the board. And so we'll be looking at all those things as we work through it.
When is that first contract expected to be in place?
I don't know how long the negotiations will take. I'm guessing it'll be after the beginning of the year. I mean, we're starting negotiations early October. The first meeting is pretty much going to be introduction, setting ground rules, those things, and then we'll start getting into the meat. I've been part of a lot of union negotiations, but I've never been a part of creating the first contract. So I don't know. I'm guessing that takes a little bit longer than normal negotiations, which usually takes a few months or more.
How long is it gonna be like? Do you know, is that part of negotiation too, how many years the contract is?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll all be negotiated.
Okay.
So we were at health insurance and PFA, so. Page 33, it's gonna start going a little faster, but. Property liability insurance. Lisa can talk about this a little bit more, but just based on what the trends are, what we're seeing, we put in 9.89%, which is what we expect, but we'll be getting better numbers moving forward. Page 34, hydrant maintenance went up a little bit. Just talking in that, we decided to keep it simple and do $100 per hydrant that we have. So if we add hydrants, those types of things, we know what the budget. We have 74 hydrants, so that's $7,400. And that really just goes from the general fund to the water fund for them taking care of fire hydrants, which benefits the whole. Page 47. So we're skipping a little ways. And we're skipping on purpose. Those are a lot of the departments that'll be in here to talk.
I have a fancy question back on property insurance and so on. So if you indeed sell some of these, is that gonna affect this?
It might go down a little bit,
Not a lot.
not a lot, not much
What's
at all.
not a lot? Oh, I'm looking.
I don't know. I don't even know how to. 79,000 includes every park, every building, everything we have, every car we have, everything. So, I mean, I would,
Small thousands,
yeah, small thousands.
very small
maybe.
thousands. Still
There you
count,
go.
still count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we get the number, we'll get the number, and the exact number will go in there for budgeting purposes. So 47 is Public Health Administration. I'm gonna jump on this instead of waiting until Vinnie comes, just because it's simple and it's mostly us anyway. The big thing is the 30,000. We budgeted 29.8 last year. That's the contract community nurse. That's offset by funds that are fundraised, so that's not being supported by tax dollars. That is a little thing. Not that you guys care too much, but that's a thing we had to manage out a little bit this year, and we're gonna have to work with that. Now, not manage out of the tax budget, but we had to pay Lebanon bills us in arrears, and then we have a community nurse now, so this year's going to be a higher expense than what we budgeted for, but it'll still be offset.
Are we still getting donations and whatnot to that, Ed, or
A
not?
little bit, we had about 3 years worth of work, so we haven't been really soliciting a lot, but it has been being talked about at the community nurse meetings about keeping that going and moving that forward.
Is it being well utilized, you know?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
It's being, I think last year when we had our data, it was being utilized a lot more than we thought it would be.
Mhm.
And then, we had a few months hiatus during the transition, but she's making, I don't know, a handful or more contacts every single month with people. I just heard of one today that I think I'm gonna send her to. It's good. A lot of the contacts, and some of them I think is people not wanting them to come to their house as much. She has a few like in-home contacts, but she has a lot of phone calls and different ways to make contact just to make sure everybody's doing okay. So we'll continue watching that and looking at the data as we move forward. Public assistance, that's the backside. Okay, 48. The personnel, I'll go ahead and highlight that. She was part of the compensation study for DPW, but we've also given her a couple of raises, bigger raises in between time. When it came back, that budget includes a 3.2% raise plus a 0.5% on top of that. To adjust with that and kind of as a merit. So there's quite a few people in here that have that extra 0.5% on there, but we're doing much better than when we were in the catch-up compensation phase. And then the 3 bottom ones, we have the 20 in there, 0, 20, 0. The 20 actually should be deleted. It's on your little sheet there. We got it moved, but it just didn't get deleted out of the spreadsheet. I believe we're gonna double check that. But that's there. If we go to the next page, 49, this is where the actual public assistance comes in. We raised from 20,000 to 30,000 for rent assistance. As we've been saying, a lot of the government assistance, ARPA funds, those types of things went away and costs continue to increase for housing. So we're bumping that up to 30,000. We bumped utilities and electric up to 1,500 from 1,000, but we also dropped down miscellaneous and the donated funds used at the bottom.
What's the process if somebody applies for rent support?
We have a whole welfare application that they have to go through, so they apply, they tell us what they need. They have to give a whole bunch of background financial data, different things. I mean, the Chantel here, she has a process of analyzing those and deciding if they qualify for rental assistance or not. And then if they do, I don't even want to describe the thing. If they're a month or 2 behind, we help pay that rent. If they're getting evicted, we've had a few of those. We end up having to try to get them a shelter, or put them up in a hotel for a time.
Is there a maximum per person?
No. It's state law that we have to help them.
And what other agencies in the Upper Valley can assist with that?
There's quite a few. I mean, Tri-County Cap has some money. We work with Listen and them a lot for fuel assistance, those types of things. So you'll see some of those numbers are fairly low. I will say Chantel does a wonderful job of I don't wanna say dishing people off, but if there's other places to get assistance, they go there. If they don't qualify, she's pretty good at saying, hey, you know, you have enough money in your savings account to pay this, go pay it. That's,
She's worth her weight in gold anyways.
she is good at finding optional resources. And she saves the town a lot of money in that way. She does really well. In part of the bigger raises the last few years to get it caught up.
She can do about anything.
It's very good.
So, page 53, so we're gonna skip a couple again. This is one DPW usually does, but it's really easy, so I figured I'd hit it tonight. Patriotic purposes for cemetery, those are the little veterans flags and stuff you see in Memorial Day. That budget's going from 250 to 100, and then we're keeping $500 in the budget for patriotic purchases, facilities and streets. One thing I have asked Jim to do is the flags around town, Veterans Park, the one on Main Street, that when we're getting close to Memorial Day, just replace them all every year. So we have really nice, fresh flags every year instead of, you know, is that one
Torn.
too tattered? It's, you know, let's keep them nice through the Memorial Day, Labor Day season.
And what are done with the old ones, Ed?
They get recycled through, I think most of them go through the little Boy Scout collection thing.
Oh,
So is
Does that
that,
move to the,
these line items for patriotic purposes, we're cutting it in half. We're going from 1,100 to 600. Why are we doing that?
Well, we're going, the bottom one, patriotic purposes, events and recreation, they didn't feel that they needed any money. Cemeteries told me they only needed $100 this year instead of $250. And then Jim said that he thought $500 would be enough to do what he needed to do. He spent $437 this year replacing those flags, so. So it's not that we don't want to do patriotic purposes, it's, this is what we need to do, what we need to do, so we
Yeah.
can budget more than that, and if they go $100 over budget, we'll figure that out.
And it's likely, I know that for cemeteries, they buy them in bulk, so they probably had purchased more than they really needed for
Okay.
that one year.
That's really spend money.
No, that's one I don't chicken stare too much, I tell them, hey, what do we need, and they put it down, and it's small money anyway, and it gets budgeted. It's- Conservation, I don't know if you want to talk about this much, but I just highlighted the bottom line that it's going down a few $100 total for the year.
what page are you on, Ed?
Oh, 55. That's the 54.
yeah.
There's nothing on it, that's fine.
I don't know.
So the record preservation supply is $100, which we didn't budget her last year because we were not in hauling all her stuff with block stuff. And we gave her $100 to keep preserving the historic. Economic development, I went ahead and put that one in 256 on the backside. There's really not much there. We budgeted 250 last year for Citizen Academy. I'd like to put a little bit more in there for next year. But I don't think I have much else. 57 on starts getting into loan data. I didn't think we needed to go through that. It is what it is. There's not a lot we can do. If you guys have questions on
Local
those.
transfers.
I did provide a spreadsheet that shows you what we have for debt service and what cost center it goes into.
Yeah.
So basically, the general fund covers a lot of it.
Right.
What is highlighted in red on that spreadsheet is what comes out of taxes, everything else really is paid out of the general fund, but it's recovered elsewhere, like capital reserve funds.
Speaking of page 65, you don't have to turn here, but that's, I just highlighted, that's the CIP. So that's Seeing the budget, I know, after the budget. The rest of it, I don't know that I have any other highlights.
Goes to water, sewer, and then there's just the 05 and 06 funds, which are debt service.
Kind of what I had for you tonight. You guys know. Unassigned fund balance review that I can let Elisa go through when you're ready to move to that. So,
Quick question on the debt breakout that you
Mhm.
mentioned.
Yep.
The two that are on hold, are those the two that we decided on the last town meeting that, hey, we're gonna rescind? I don't know if that's the right word,
That are involved.
on hold.
On hold,
Sidewalk improvements and.
Oh.
Are those the ones we said we didn't need anymore at the last town meeting?
sidewalk.
Sidewalk improvements, so we have the authority to borrow still, that has not been rescinded.
Okay.
So that's why they're still listed. So in theory, the town could
Or spend-
still go and get the loans. Because the authority stays
Yes,
until such time as, we go and say, hey, we don't want this anymore, we'd like to rescind the authority to borrow. Which we did, was that last year or the year before?
Yeah.
When we had.
we did it recently once.
Yeah,
I think the 40,000, we had the authority, and then when we did the sidewalks, we decided with loan rates and stuff that we would just pay for that.
So. And then what was the DPW improvement ones?
that was a combination of insulation, the exhaust system.
I think we're done with that too. I
We-
can double check.
I
that
think
with
We
DPW.
did spend some money from cash as opposed to
Okay.
borrowing for small pieces, but we didn't do all of it. And the biggest part, which is insulation, is on hold.
No insulation, then
I
except.
mean,
for
the roof,
Yeah.
right, so the insulation's in except for the roof, but
The part that remains is the extension of the roof due to ice damming. But the insulation seems to have helped the problem dramatically. So I would say there doesn't need to be anything in there until another problem crops up.
I'll double check with Jim, but I think we can probably put those under send if we want to.
Okay. I was gonna say if we should clean them up if we don't think we need them anymore.
well, I'm of the feeling that if we didn't need it to this point, we should just ask for it again if we need it, and not
Right, that's my
keep holding
point.
on to it.
Like, if there's stuff to be done, we should do it, or we should rescind it.
I agree.
And I have to apologize for the unassigned fund balance data, which I will. You should be able to see that in electronic copy and blow it up, maybe not, probably not. I can get you a new one. Maybe in Excel. So you can. Play with the columns, but it was, we had asked how we got to, what were the big changes? How did you get to the town budget? So I took the MS 232 data for each, which is the appropriations actually voted. It gets reported to the state. So I took that data for each of the years and the notes just points out the big differences. But obviously you need a new copy that you can read.
Yeah, you're talking about this one?
Yep. Has a lot of hashtags,
I'm not sure.
A lot of.
a lot of hashtags.
Right.
And so it's not really terribly helpful.
Are you talking about this one?
Now I'm talking
No.
about this,
Oh, we don't have it.
which relates to that.
I know,
This is the data
That's why I
that
was
shows you
confused.
what the difference is and why. Dan had asked, what was the reason for the big jump between certain years, and we wanted to have the data so we could know for sure and explain that to people if they ask. So I will just,
That's the big change. And just,
well,
we'll get you a better copy so you can see it.
well, the notes tell you what the big changes were, but it was public safety loans. That's the biggest change, is the public safety and Whitney Hall loan payments.
this one, it's at the end of the stack of.
And it has a little X's, so
Yeah, so it's not very helpful.
That's the one with all the X's. So.
So the bottom line numbers,
So you're still talking about this, right?
yeah, so the bottom line numbers, town budget portion of unassigned fund balance. The hashtag amounts correspond with the numbers that are on the spreadsheet, which still has a hashtag amount, even though I fixed it. Okay. I gotta figure out why it keeps doing that to me.
So. Can you help me for a second?
Mhm.
So what are all these numbers?
Okay, so in each column, for
Yeah.
each of the years, we have an MS 232, which is the
where's it moved?
appropriations actually voted. It's a form we file with the state. This is what everybody approved.
Yep.
Those are the numbers for each year on the MS 232s.
Got it.
And so the purpose of this is to figure out what the town budget is on your calculation of the unassigned fund balance.
Okay,
So that when you look at the, over here, there's the town budget figure. That over here. That
Yep.
number comes from the MS 232.
got it.
But there was a question how we got those numbers and what they included
Yeah.
and where the big differences lie.
Where the budget jumps.
Yes. And that's what this other exercise is for.
So, and what was the question? Because I wasn't here. What specific
What
jump?
caused
What
the jump
caused?
in the budget for the town portion?
Right.
Ah,
Because it went from 5.8 to 6.5 to 7.5.
got it. Well, because we voted for stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, well, what was this?
But what was the stuff? That's
Okay.
why the data.
Now I
What was the
understand.
big Changes.
Now I understand. Okay. So the one on the general fund unassigned fund balance for 2023. So the 1.9 number is final, right? The 1.927 million? Yeah, it says right below here. Okay, confirmed.
Oh, you're looking at the fund
Yeah.
balance, yes.
Oh, and then that's.
Everything in yellow is confirmed. There's some
Got it.
darker yellow. Those were adjusted by the auditor after the fact, so those are adjusted numbers, but they're all confirmed.
Okay. Because that is what's going on my chart. So it actually went up a lot to 2023.
We were working at that very hard.
Yeah.
Well, and we were working on the expense side, but the revenue side is gonna make a
The
difference
rest,
too.
a really big jump.
Yes.
So,
So that affected that. We have control over the expenses,
Right.
but not so much over revenues.
And so then the 1.77 is essentially what's going to the auditors now.
Yes, so.
Right.
That's,
And so we are hoping,
we can actually probably up that to what last year's numbers were for that, because we're hoping it's not going down.
right,
So we could easily take the 24 general fund number and make it 1.9 million, I would think.
That's what we just said to the auditors.
no, so we sent 2024 to the auditors.
On the other hand.
So once the auditors come back, then the number that says 1.772 will become revised and yellow.
I know, but.
We should wait till we do that, right?
Yeah, I would,
Yes,
I thought I just heard we make that 1.927.
Well, we could just, it's just an estimate. We don't really know.
we don't,
But that was what the estimate was? Or we don't know?
No, we're
until we
making
get-
it, we're figuring this out on our own. It's
until we
not
get
from
to
the auditors.
November, We get there.
Yeah.
Got it.
And there was a lot of things that happened in 23 or was it 24? With fund, it was 24, fund balance and reducing the tax rate and that, so I don't know how that.
Yeah, that was
affects-
24, right?
Yeah, so that's probably, because I have this blue note here, and it's been a little while since I did this, that talks about that, and that's probably why that is down.
Right.
Yeah, I
It's
think
because
we
of
took
those
the
things,
one
but-
27 number and took a lot of the numbers that we said we
Like-
we're gonna take from fund balance to
We're gonna,
offset.
yes,
it.
we're gonna lower the tax rate and all this, and then
Yeah.
you have to go
I mean, if we
explain
look
why
at
the tax rate
2024,
went up.
It looks
Right.
like
Mhm.
we're giving
Yeah.
money back out of the general
Yeah.
fund, which will offset some of that, so that number's not.
So actually, I take it back, we probably should leave it at 1.7.
Yeah.
Well, and I,
For now.
we'll check,
I love it when you argue.
we'll check what we agreed to in 2024 to spend from unassigned fund balance, and we'll see what those numbers were.
Yeah.
Because we had 100,000 from taxes, 75,000 for Shed Street, you know, we had a whole list.
Push on the auditor to have that number prior to presentation timing.
That would be great, but
Hopefully they do better this.
normally we would have that.
Yeah, we would have that one, we would not have 2025, so.
And so our target balance sounds like it's 2.3-ish. So
Ish.
we're still low.
Mhm.
2.3 for 24.
And also there's a policy of the target unassigned fund balance as a fraction of the net operating or the general total operating expenses of 8 to 17%, and 12% is a target, and you can see it's 12% is 2.3 million.
In 2025, of course, I simply used for the school, state, local, school,
Same numbers.
county, and using the same numbers until tax rate setting time, we'll have some of this other stuff. It's really just too early to get really good numbers for that.
We kind of talked about it, but just to explain that, if you look at the top again, that the 8% is our bottom threshold. We don't want to go below that per policy, so 1.5. So it looks like we're going to be above that.
Mhm.
But the target 12% is kind of what we set, is the sweet spot where we want to be. And then we don't want to exceed the 17%. So somewhere in that range is where we want to be. We want to move closer, if
12.
possible, to the 2%.
And they explained that at the meeting today, that, the 8% or 8.5% is 1 month's expenditures and 17% is 2.
That's pretty,
That, finally made sense to me of why those numbers were there.
yeah. Yeah. Which in the grand scheme of thing, when you think about it, if your emergency fund was only 6 weeks,
Trouble.
that's not great. Okay. Sounds. That's gonna go that.
Well, I'm gonna stick my foot in it. Motion to adjourn.
Well, hold on, we're not done yet.
But you gotta move it, John.
Yeah,
Capital reserve funds,
So you have two reports. One, I pulled, together what funds we have currently, and that's the one without any highlighting on it. But it gives you what the purpose is, so you'll know what it can be used for. The other report came from the trustee of trust funds more recently, and,
That's the one.
that's the one with the, yes, this one has more up-to-date figures.
That's the trustee, the trust fund.
Yes, they provided that.
and then where's the one that you said?
Just like this one?
Okay.
Yep, this was in your packet, so it should be like somewhere in the back.
Right, probably.
There's a lot of stuff.
Should be really close at the back.
No,
Almost back.
The back is
so
95, 97.
Look at the very back. The other one.
Way at the back. Unless you shuffle your paper.
I didn't.
so Um, good question. The capital reserve funds that you made,
Yeah.
so are those all actively being used or do some of these warrant cleanup?
Well, that is something
Like-
to discuss.
Bridge construction 2005?
Well, my suggestion would be to use that the next time we have the bridge constructed. The select board can vote to use the money and just spend it down and discontinue it.
Right, or we stick it in CIP.
Well, if you're gonna do that, that would require a town meeting vote, but if the select board just uses it and offsets some expenses so that we don't have to borrow as much, that doesn't have to go
Got
to
it.
town meeting
That's
for
the less
$2,200.
complicated way.
We could
Makes
probably use $1,000 for the engineering you just approved.
It doesn't bridge construction, that's part of bridge construction. And then, another one that, municipal facilities, that. That's a good question. What do we want to use that for? If we use up some of these smaller ones. Where the select board is agent to expend to
Mhm.
reduce the cost of something,
Right,
it
I-
makes sense and then discontinue it.
housekeeping, right?
Can definitely use that. We can probably find something in this year's budget if you guys want to use it to lower the budget. Wouldn't want to use it for basic maintenance, because then you're just gonna have to add it back next year. But when we have a project that we need to do with one of these facilities, which we may have it.
And it's only allowed for major repairs and renovations, additions and alterations. It's not like small stuff.
Right, but like we just build new buildings, that seems like a major thing. And good.
So in
Would it work for a salt shed
theory,
apron?
Yes,
facilities, what do you consider a municipal facility?
salt shed apron,
Well, it's municipal facilities, maintenance and equipment.
Audio.
Yeah, maintenance and equipment tells me all of that type of stuff, I think. So I think we could find something and.
Okay.
I'll look for
Okay.
something in there where we might be able to use that, where it's not gonna come back to bite us,
right, yeah, let's not use it on things to,
that we're gonna do
Just
next year.
use it.
well, no, like, let's do one-time things so that we don't have to explain the next year why the rate went up because we used fund balance of something else, right? Let's not do that anymore,
So if you were to use this, though, the public safety building or Whitney
$25,000
Hall.
right?
Then
If
you
we
could,
did the $25,000 apron and we take 15,000 of it for this,
Boom.
then we have a $10,000 apron.
from
Right,
CIP.
Drakes?
yes,
So that would save money coming out of CIP,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
which is not a bad thing.
Which is what this capital reserve is really for.
Right.
For the,
A CIP type
When you-
item, so that might make sense.
Okay,
And the municipal water meter backflow preventer. That fund has not been managed the way it ought to be. And money has not been going into it every year.
But wasn't that, didn't we have a discussion about, hey, we need to replace water meters?
Yeah,
Yes,
and they didn't use it out of here. I've talked to Jim and he says this was a long time ago when they used to replace them all at one time and then they go and he kind of recommended that we move this into the sewer fund or spend it and
Okay.
or water sewer fund and then just get rid of it completely.
Okay. Yeah. I'm in favor of cleanup as recommended by town manager unless anybody else disagrees.
I disagree, because I was on the committee that set this up.
Okay.
And the thought was they weren't putting money aside for regular replacement of things. And then if you paid a little bit at each water sewer bill, you would have it. So now somebody's meter's out, you're not expecting them to pay the meter, it gets replaced.
Right, but we're doing that anyway.
Yeah, I think
We're
we
No,
doing it
they
anyway
weren't.
from,
Back then, they were not.
well, right, but I'm
Okay.
saying we're doing it anyway now from the fund rather than using this.
But your bill is, that's broken out on that.
Yeah, I think we can still bill for it, I don't say we stop that, but I don't know that we need a separate reserve fund for that
Right.
money. It can go into the capital reserve fund for the water sewer line.
Right, I would,
Right.
I would put it in the water or sewer capital reserve. Right. And have. it
Rather than a
there.
separate fund just for this one thing. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean,
Yeah,
but again, it's like drilling down in the data, where's all the money going?
Oh, and then the
You
town,
put it in a fund and it gets spent, and then you go to, now it's spent, and where is? When you put it on the bill that that's what it's gonna be for, it should be that, for that. That the user thinks it is. And so when they come replace your meter,
Mhm.
you as a homeowner or business owner with a water meter are expecting not to be billed or
You will.
whatever,
you
right?
won't be.
You won't, so we say. But there's some meters that get replaced more often. Like when we had our apartment building, it's down the hill, by Rich Hill from the water tank. And that meter goes bad. It starts, running, you can see it every few years. And when they replace it, the usage drops.
And that may be true, but we have not used this fund. It's
Yes,
just
I
sitting there. We
understand,
haven't
but
used this fund
because
in a
you're
long
not
time.
using it, tells me that you're not allocating the bills to where they should have gone.
Right, that was in the auditor's report a few
Mhm.
years ago.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's not being used, can it be eliminated as a capital reserve fund and the tax and be used to reduce taxes?
No, this is not taxes.
It's
This is not
just staying in the
taxes.
water sewer department.
to go to.
I say
That's
that's
fine.
they're separate funds,
Right,
so it would have to stay with water or sewer.
right.
Mhm.
What I don't understand is if you had the fund, why weren't we using? It? Why wasn't the
Well-
bills for that billed to that fund? That seems odd.
Do we have another fund that how are they paying for these meters?
Just added the budget.
Out of the budget, or if they needed to, they could have the select board vote to use the water or sewer capital reserve funds, because there's a separate one for each of those.
So it seems like a duplication then, really.
Yeah, it is.
Would
So
we
why
use
can't
those
they
if
just
we
be added?
needed
It could just be
major
added,
repair
it could go in one of
due
those
to
funds.
pipe
No.
breaks, something like that?
Specific,
No.
very specific water meters and backflow preventers.
Sounds like we made a third fund when we already had to.
Well, and it was probably back before some of that other stuff was set up. And it almost reminds me of like the CIP fund and all these other reserves.
Yeah.
That we have. And
1980.
now we have some other funds of money and the town replaces the meters when they go bad. So I think collecting the fees to replace the meters is fine.
I can
Where
understand.
the money live, and this to me is an extra administrative step that hadn't been happening, where the money's not getting transferred in and transferred back and.
But it sounds like double dipping to me if I understand it correctly, because you're collecting money for this. But you're paying it out of a different fund. Your rates are high. Why are we collecting this if we're paying it out of another fund and making the bottom line of the bill?
It's all
for our
staying
user
within the,
more?
it's all staying
Well,
within
the
the
meter
water and
money's
sewer
going in
fund.
that fund too.
Yes, it's all in the same, it's staying
The
in the
meter
same fund,
money's
it's just
not
in a
going
different
in that
place in it.
fund. It hasn't been for years.
Is there a line item,
That's
line
what I'm
item
saying.
on
So
the bill
if you weren't
go
putting the
into
money
this
in that
fund
fund
every month?
and you're not
It doesn't
using
go into
it,
the fund every
then
month.
the user didn't need to be
It's
saying.
part time that we have money.
But it's still going into a fund that will be used for the purpose of
Yeah,
the
the
water
meter
system.
money's still going in and being used to
Yeah.
replace meters. It's just going through the normal.
Right, it's just, we're billing the customer for this. We will replace the meters. It's not as though it's going into someone's pocket somewhere.
Right.
It's going into the general coffers of the town.
But
There was
but these
a-
waters are just
It's going
It's going into the water.
Water coffer.
Pay for
Yeah.
water meter.
This
Right.
seems like a no-brainer to me. I totally get Jane's logic and understand what she's saying, but I feel like this was developed way back in 1996, long ago.
Or 73.
And now there's really no need for that, and I think it needs to go to water and sewer. That's my
Yeah.
take on it.
Yeah, it'll have to go back to pay for meters at water and sewer, but we have money in the budget, we can start trickling it out and then do away with the fund.
When was money added to these funds the last?
I have no idea.
So it's probably been,
It's been stagnant for a long time. Not the municipal water, and municipal sewer funds. Those get money most years.
no, these two.
Those, oh, cool. Those two are separate. We've been talking about this last one. Those two, there's money in the budget. Usually it's been 25,000 most years. That gets transferred. It's in the budget, gets transferred into the fund annually.
One thing you will see this year is I'm recommending not doing the
Oh, no, we do use those.
into that.
Okay, so it's
capital
this one.
reserve fund,
That,
so
that
we can
one,
fund
that little,
back to
the
zero.
one with the 14,000 in it.
To me, it doesn't make sense to continue building savings when we're in a negative fund balance situation.
That makes sense. And so these two are, to be clear, these are the two capital funds for water and sewer that we use on a consistent basis, right?
Just like the CIP.
These guys, just like the CIP.
Oh, got one.
So rephrase, the three that we use a lot are the second one, fifth and sixth one.
Yes.
Okay. This one should just move to water.
Well, folks, I think my COVID shot's catching up with me.
Okay.
I think it's catching up.
Enjoy.
Can I request then that since we aren't gonna discuss having a budget committee representative at
Well-
this meeting, that it be first on the agenda for the next meeting?
I was still gonna have a discussion without it.
What?
Without,
Because we just said that Tracy would
Yeah.
be the rep.
Tracy will go.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Tracy is my replacement,
Yeah, I'm the designated alternate. I attend
designated by the
each
select.
meeting anyway, just because I like to learn about the budget and I don't want to be blindsided in November when it gets presented to the board of select person.
By the way,
Thank you.
there's another. There's another bridge construction one, but with the trustees as well.
No, that is this one.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, they're the same. Got it. Okay.
There was a philosophy in the town, John would remember, of setting up little pots of money for different needs.
Yeah.
And at one time, they had 20 or 30 of these small capital reserve funds. One you would all remember would be the sidewalk fund. And we took the money out of that just this
Absolutely
past
true.
year. And we closed it out.
Yeah.
Because we did a bunch of sidewalk work. And we pointed out that this money's sitting there, why don't we use it to pay what we just self-performed on all our sidewalks? But they, at one time, had 20 or 30
I know.
of these small little pots for different specialized uses.
I will tell you, a lot of towns do it that way, and it's really great to have the CIP fund and the CIP committee. So you don't have
Exactly.
$400,000 in a
Cusick
fire truck.
And Dan Kiley and others came along and said, having all these small pots doesn't make sense. Let's establish what the state calls the capital improvement plan.
Right. And all I'm saying is let's keep cleaning up.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely. It's an annual thing and there are some that can still be cleaned up, no question.
There's a bunch of. I know people always say you can't touch library, but library technology for $900.
right.
I think,
There's money that goes,
weren't you gonna close out the library one after this
that was
year?
that was the building one. This one has money that goes into it. It's small money, but
And then
we did
should,
use some of this money
What's the library?
last year to buy a library.
We did close out.
yeah, when I make
To
it.
not have the taxpayer.
that's actually a non-CR, and I thought they spent that.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah,
Right.
so we did use that and we keep our eye on it every now and then. Every 5 years, the library needs computers and small little revenue trickles into that, so we can use that to help offset costs moving forward.
Anything else?
Yes, Dave wanted to
Yep.
talk about.
I know.
Okay. For those of you who've been on the budget committee for much longer than I have, you will recall that at one point, up until a few years back, that the budget committee had a representative, meet with the department head, for each department, and take an in-depth look at the, development of the budget from that committee.
What parties there?
Seeing them, John.
Oh,
So they
haven't gone far, you got here.
yeah, I got here. Enough.
So they're on the ground out there, maybe?
I'll go take it.
You need a flashlight?
No, I'm good.
I don't see anything. Nothing's resolution.
So I won't repeat what I just said, that the representative would meet with one representative would meet with each major department, and then take an in-depth look at as they were developing the budget. Apparently that was discontinued a few years back. Don't know the details of that. One of the major department heads, discussed that with me and suggested that that might be, something that's worth resuming. He found it helpful. I talked to, a non-quorum of a couple of other budget, committee members, who remembered what it was like, and they also felt it was helpful. So I was wondering about resuming that, procedure.
So personally, I would like to say, having been on the budget committee before, and you know, I'm gonna be quiet about this and not say anything. Anyways, I don't feel like we need to start something new here in the middle of the stream. I think if there are several people that want to do that and think that's a great idea, I think the time to do that is be talking about it at the end of the season to start at the beginning of another season. I don't want to think about starting something new like that. And I've been through that process, David, and I have to tell you that I'm not sure, and I was a liaison to a couple of the departments that there was a huge amount of benefit to that compared to how we're doing it now. I feel like we are getting to be in depth and we're getting information. And so I guess I'm not sure. It worked then and it was wonderful and it was great, but I'm not feeling like that it's now a working thing for this time period. I don't know. That's just my,
I would say that was my concern when I first heard about it is every one of you need to know that. So if there's questions about getting a little deeper in the weeds, we could do it at the meeting they're here for, or we can bring them back to any meeting and dig into certain things a little bit deeper. I've never been in it when the budget committee was doing it, but I've seen two cities do it with the city council and it caused friction and problems within the board itself.
yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's a good idea. I've talked to a
When
few
we-
department heads and they thought it was just more of their time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
when I did it,
Didn't.
it felt very repetitive. Like you would go through all the same things you would go through in the meeting anyway.
right.
And so I felt like more meetings to really discuss the same stuff. Because all the things you discuss one-on-one just get redone all over again when the whole board is pressed, because at the end of the day, the whole board needs to hear it.
And I feel like,
So we got rid of it. I was there for it because we felt like, hey, this isn't adding any value. It's really just more meetings for
It's
board
redundant.
members who already, most of us, I think, a lot of us are in multiple committees to begin with. It was repetitive. The other reason that since then, I think I have not talked about bringing it back is a lot of those discussions were one board member to one department head without the town manager in the middle, right? And so it's like skip level meetings at work. There's a place for them, but I don't think this is it. I think at the end of the day, you know, the town manager needs to be aware of what happens with the budget, and if there's discussions between the board and the department head without the knowledge of the town manager, I think that can cause problems.
Well,
I
last time,
wouldn't see excluding the town manager. I would say the same
Right.
meeting that the town manager is at, that the budget rep.
Right,
Yeah.
but then we're essentially having we're then essentially having a meeting between the town and one person of the budget
Last-
committee.
the last time I did this, Ryan was here.
Right,
Yeah,
By God, he hot footed it to every
he
meeting that
did.
he could, and that's just an extra meeting for him, not doing necessarily.
well,
What
and
he
an
should
extra
do.
meeting for the budget member too, because it's,
Yeah, I
the same
didn't
stuff.
find.
I just feel like doing it the way we're doing it now, all of us together are getting the same information at the
Yep.
same time. There's no, oh, well, this little conversation took place over on this side, but that info never got to this group. So, yeah, I'm not for attending any more meetings. I'm happy to try to help out my town and do my volunteer work, but, no, yeah.
I haven't even made a motion, so it was just one of the discussion. I can tell which way this is going.
I think the main reason is that, like, you're gonna sit there with the department head and they're gonna go through line by line by line, saying everything that is being said in here when they are here.
I guess my feeling, and again, I don't have the intense, deep financial background that some of you do. Is that when we go through, 100+ pages of, spreadsheets, that I certainly don't feel that even if I've done a pre-review and post-review, that I have a in-depth handle on what, has been discussed at this meeting.
Well, I guess I would say to that, David, if you are feeling like you're not getting a good understanding and you're missing something, then you need to ask more questions and
Well,
get more
I wish
information.
I knew what I didn't know. It's really the issue.
Well, I mean, it's not something that you can like learn in 5 minutes. This is.
Yeah.
It takes a couple of years.
Yeah.
Takes a couple of years, and after a couple of,
It really does.
I was, when I did the first year, this was like, whoa. And the second year, okay, and the third year, you're on pace with
My third
everybody.
year is the last one.
And so I must admit, people who decide to go do this for 1 year, you're better off not doing it at all.
You know, and we can answer questions going through here if you have things, but I think it's really important to remember too, that the budget committee really needs to be that high level, looking at the department as a whole, bottom line, the budget as a whole, bottom line. And I would hate to see us, when we did this once before I was here, thankfully, where we're talking about shaving $20 out of a $250 line, and, you
Oh,
know, the department. heads
$20
were-
out of $50 line item. We were voting on every
really
single
hard
line item.
trying to-
It was just.
Trying to
We don't
do
want to
it
second guess that.
Really
I
pushing,
It was awful.
and I hope you see they're getting better, but we're really pushing comments and breakdowns of, you know, why'd the salt budget go up this much? Well, salt prices went up this much, we've depleted our, you know, let's try to get those in there. The new software actually gives me control where they have to put comments in there, so, or they're not allowed to submit their budget, so we can start getting things in there to get breakdowns. And, you know, if you look at Lisa does a great job, and I've really been pushing the department head, you'll see it in there this time, that instead of dues $1,000, it says 500 goes to this place, 200 goes to that place, so if we want to have the discussion of, are we getting substantial return from Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission for the amount of money we're paying, we can have that conversation, but not digging deep into the weeds of, you know, do we need
Yeah, so
$200 for toilet paper?
half of, like, more than half people here probably remember the sand days.
Yeah.
Right, where we had these department
I'm
meetings.
just saying, but.
Oh, I don't know, in the beginning of Eric too, and then it started fizzling out. So we had the department meetings, the departments would come present. And then after that, the budget committee would go through every single line item, make motions on every single line item, discuss every single line item, and then vote up or down every single line item, and we would
Yep.
make adjustments on the order of
Right.
10, 20, 50, $100.
Yep. one thing.
one line item at a time. We were here week after week for 3 to 4 hours every night,
Yep,
going through the whole budget line by
You can
line.
see what was
$1 at a time.
the fund balance at the end of some of those. I
And we
mean,
used to do that, every regional came and presented too, and that took weeks. And so
So-
so they had to send in the application and we do it in 1 or 2 meetings. And then present it to the whole budget committee. And I can see, I always had admin. And it really, the only one it did was benefit me to know ahead of time. I didn't share it with everybody.
Right, either.
Lisa came in and did the same thing she did with me, which took how many hours, Lisa? So I
So-
think it is better that we all,
It's repetitive.
Together.
Or-
Well, if it's redundant, then I don't wanna do it either.
because it only benefits the one person that.
Yeah.
It sounded like from the department guy that I spoke to, that he thought it benefited him as well.
Oh,
His department.
Somebody had his.
Well, I
back.
don't know. I don't think it really benefited you to lose that time to
I-
sit with me. But,
So I think like early
I
on,
enjoyed being there.
in the earlier years, it felt like department heads were coming in and defending their budget. Right, and hoping that they wouldn't get cut, right? I think Ed is now, Ryan had improved that already. I think Ed is better representing the departments and the whole town. But at the end of the day, we don't really even vote on department budgets or line items. Because at the end of the day, we vote on the bottom line number. If the town goes in and completely reduce their budget, they didn't do that.
Yes.
In fact, for the default budget, they would do that. They have to, right?
Yeah, we try to follow the budget because that's all the discussions we've had and that's where we need the money. We're not just putting it there because we want to put it there. But yeah, you're right. If we decided, you know what, we're just not gonna do that service anymore, we're gonna do this, we could do that. We really try not. One thing I wanted to highlight, Shirley reminded me, and I must have skipped it in those pages, is if you look under the visiting nurses and all those social services, we just pushed the amount of money we spent last year up into advanced transit as a placeholder.
Yeah.
So it didn't look like we were funding all those again. We just put the same money so it didn't mess up the bottom line. If you see that, we're not trying to fund advanced transit.
Alright,
can I just ask one quick question before we go? And it's not a question that has to be answered now. It's just because it's on my mind and I saw it somewhere today, so it can be answered later. So my understanding is there's gonna be lots of lights in Hughes Park this year from some guy that used to do it in Lebanon. So my question is, who's paying for that electricity and what the costs and all of that's gonna be? So I'm just throwing that out there.
I'll answer it right now. There's gonna be some more lights in Hughes Park. His announcement made it look like it was gonna be this humongous thing. We're gonna do some, we may do some in the field. We're gonna work with them to see what we do. This year, we're planning on paying that bill and seeing what it looks like. It's a benefit to our community. But if it's too much, we'll definitely talk to him before the next year and say, we need to fundraise or do something like that to cover this. But I don't want to make him do that and then we go, oh, it's like a couple $100 or something. But I do think it's a big benefit to our community. Yes, it'll pull some other people in. That's good for our downtown. That's good for the Lions selling trees there, all those things. So let's look at it. I mean, we put the fair on our bill every year as well. I mean, that's another discussion, but
Yep.
I don't think it's gonna use that much power. So
I think it's like LED type.
it's all LEDs. We won't let him put anything else on it.
No, I mean, it may not, but I think that's another thing that people out in the public say, oh yeah, sure, look at, they're spending all this money and doing all these lights. So I think if we can kind of be prepared for that backlash of, you know, they're spending more money and doing things that they don't need to be doing, we can be.
And having some idea of a cap of how much if it looks like it's gonna be, a large number of lights, then it's gonna cost thousands of dollars.
We're just
He's
watching
doing his
that.
effort at no expense to the town.
Yeah,
Except for the.
When you say doing, the doing is free. There is an electrical expense, but his effort is pure voluntary.
Oh, no, I know that, Tracy, but there's still the electricity, and I just feel like in all fairness to the residents in the town, there needs to be some sort of understanding of what's going on down there. That's,
I think it's a new idea. I think it's worth trying it out for a year to see how it goes.
yep,
It won't be that difficult to look at what last year's December light bill was compared to this year's December light bill. We'll be able to compare kilowatt to kilowatt and know very closely what his lights cost. And if we don't like it, then we'll just say, well, thank you very much. We're moving on. And if it seems satisfactory, then we'll be able to say, that was wonderful and let's try it again.
I just.
It's just a new program to try.
No, I get it. I totally understand that, but I just feel like in all fairness to residents of us being here trying to watch over the monies and spending that, whether it's 10 cents or $10, we need to be responsible. That's all I'm saying.
We can say, we're gonna do that comparison that you just said. And that, I think, would answer many of those questions and say, yeah, it's being monitored carefully.
It'll be very easy to look at. Just compare the bills.
Any public comment?
Anyone on there?
Yes,
Yep.
can you send my mom home? It's 9 o'clock. I want to go to bed.
To adjourn the meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
Second
It's late.
Motion and seconded.
He seconded. You don't have to vote on it.
motion.
Who made the motion? I did, Jean. Okay.
I saw her sign. I'm giving her trouble.